No soap. What's more, no other suds, no other washing product known will get your clothes as clean as Tide. Yes, Procter & Gamble's amazing Tide promises you the cleanest wash that ever came out of your washing machine. That's because Tide, with its new miracle suds, not only leaves clothes free from dirt, it removes dingy soap film, too. And that happens to your whole family wash. Linens, prints, even greasy overalls. Yet with all this cleaning power, Tide is safe, truly safe, for all your washable colors. In fact, Tide actually brightens those soap-dulled colors. And if you're wondering about your white linens and your husband's shirts, well, in hardest water, Tide gets them whiter than any other washing product known. What's more, Tide keeps them white week after week, never turns them yellow. Sure, there are many, many washing products to choose from, but remember, only by choosing Tide will you get all this. The cleanest, brightest, whitest wash you ever hung on the line.
Now, I'm sure you know that Mason's client, Mary McKean, has been arrested, charged with kidnapping her own child, and that a slow, steady pressure is being exerted on her to turn her against her lawyer. Meanwhile, what about Mason, who at this moment is a fugitive from the police with a price of $500 on his head? Well, right now, inside a small black florist's truck, we hear.
Paul?
Yes, Della?
Is it much farther to Peach's garage?
Oh, not much. Block or so. Why?
Why? Did you ever sit on the floor of a delivery truck? Oh, that's right. Laugh. Go on, laugh. You can laugh sitting there on the driver's seat, sitting on that nice upholstered cushion.
There's a bump in the street. Hang on.
Oh! Oh, right.
Never mind, Della.
Never mind.
Oh, let him have his fun now. You can have yours later.
How?
When he sends in his bill, you can beat him down.
Oh.
That'll hurt him a lot worse than being bounced around in a delivery truck.
Oh, Chief, you're wonderful.
Well, thank you.
I feel better already.
Listen, you fugitives.
Yes, Mr. Detective.
Get just a little bit lippier, and do you know what I'm going to do?
Turn us over to the police.
Well, you're worth $500 cash. Don't you forget it.
Don't you forget it either. We end up in an accident, and I know a certain private detective who loses his license, but permanently.
Oh, don't worry about me. I can drive this truck with my eyes closed.
Well, wait till we get to the garage before you demonstrate, please.
Speaking of the 500 reward that's out for you, Perry.
Yeah.
I imagine Peaches knows about it.
Yeah, so do I.
You know, Peaches likes money as well as the next man.
Well,
Paul, you don't think
Well,
that...
you'll be taking that chance. Right now, I'm the only one who knows where you two are. But the minute you walk into Peach's office, he's in on it, too. It's worth thinking over. Because we're almost at his garage.
well, I don't think there's any choice, Paul. We have to take the chance.
Perry.
Peaches knows who helped Doc frame Mary. He trucked that scenery back and forth from the theatrical warehouse. Now, Peaches isn't any theatrical trucker. He's no expert at handling scenery. He was picked for a different reason. We all know this matter has to be settled fast. The police are not dopes. They're going to pick me up sooner or later. And, well, as I see it, we just have to take the chance.
Oh, the seats in the police patrol upholstered, Paul.
All your troubles are over, Della. Here we go into the garage.
Oh, at last. Get around and back and open the door, Chief.
Take it easy, Della.
Take it easy, Chief.
You'll have to for another minute or so, Della.
But now...
Look, Paul wants to make sure that Peaches is alone.
Oh, sorry.
Back in a minute.
Yeah. We don't want to get this far along, unload, and walk right in onto a cop who's trying to sell Peaches a ticket to the policeman's ball.
I know, I'm sorry. I haven't been thinking. I guess
I know you've been uncomfortable and you're tired and you're not used to having the police on foil.
Well, just the same,
Well,
I
just
could...
the same, you've been a real sport. You know, I wouldn't give a dime for a person who just took it and didn't sound off sometime or other. So you got mad because Paul was sitting on a comfortable driver's seat while you were bouncing around on the floor. It didn't do any harm.
Shh.
Hmm?
Footsteps. Coming this way.
Paul, I guess.
And Peaches?
I guess so.
Do you think he'll play ball with us, Perry?
I hope he will. We'll certainly find out soon enough.
Okay, kids. Come on out.
Oh, thank goodness.
Here, let me help you down, Miss Street.
Thanks. Oh, it feels so good to stretch.
You ain't changed a bit. You're still as cute as when I saw you last.
Why, Peaches, you're a gentleman.
Yeah?
Well, if you can say that after the beating I've taken in the back of that florist truck.
Say, Miss Street, think I don't know? You know, I remember once when I was a kid, I was helping run alcohol down from Canada. This was during Prohibition.
Didn't you say a squad car has a regular beat in front of your garage?
Yeah, that's right, Mr. Drake. I don't think the cops believe I'm a reformed character. Oh, I get what you're talking about. We get a couple of Lamsters in here with us, huh? How's it feel to have the cops after you, Mr. Mason?
Well, I can think of more pleasant things.
Yeah. Well, come on, let's go in the office.
All right.
You can't see into the office from the street. From
Fine.
there. We can talk better there without the noise of this machinery business here, you
Good
know?
idea, Peter.
Did you hear the last broadcast, Mr. Mason?
Well, I don't know.
Offering $500 for you.
Yes, we heard that one.
$500. They never thought I was worth that much. Here's the office. Step right in.
All right, dollar.
You know, you're hotter than a 2-bit pistol, Mr. Mason.
Yes, I know it.
With that kind of dough being offered for you ain't got long.
That's why I'm here, Peaches.
You mean you're going to let me turn you in and collect the dough?
Sorry, Peaches, but no. I want you to help me, because I have to wind up a certain case, but fast.
There'll be a squad car by inside of 10 minutes. You know, I could use that $500, Mr. Mason.
Yes, I don't doubt it.
And besides, it put me in solid with the cops. They just won't believe me when I say I'm reformed.
Peaches,
And then there's this angle. Suppose they find you went in here to talk to me.
let's quit the kidding, Peaches.
A guy like me don't have a chance to turn an honest score every day. Not for $500.
Look, are you figuring to turn me in?
Well, it's an awful temptation, Mr. Mason.
Well, a squad car will be by in less than 10 minutes, according to you. Are you going to do it?
Well, I'd like to, but you know me, Mr. Mason. You did me a big favor once, and you know I wouldn't rat on a guy who did me a favor. Miss Street, Mr. Drake. Say, they don't know I'm kidding.
Oh, why, of course I did.
Sure.
Ah, in a pig's eye you did. They thought I was serious, Mr. Mason. You're the only one who knew I was kidding. I must be getting a bad reputation.
Well, we've all been under a strain, Peaches.
Well, Miss Street here should have known better.
I'm sorry, Peaches, but
We're
I
in
guess...
quite a rat race, Peaches.
Well, now, look,
My client is going to be indicted Monday.
Yeah?
Yeah, for a crime of which he's innocent. Just as innocent as you were when the cops arrested you.
So?
So, as you pointed out, I'm going to be picked up sooner or later.
Uh-huh.
Before I'm picked up, if I don't have the McKean case pretty well solved...
Murtaugh's going to nail your hide to the barn door.
Yeah, he'll do worse than that. He'll see to it that I'm disbarred.
Which means that you're going to have to quit being a lawyer.
Which means I have to quit being a lawyer. Well, I don't intend to quit being a lawyer, Peaches. So you see, I have to move fast.
Well, I can see that all right, Mr. Mason, and, well, okay, I owe you a tab. What do you want me to do?
You know those theatrical backgrounds you hauled to a vacant lot?
Yeah?
Those flats were used to frame my client. They were set up, my client was posed against them after she was doped, and pictures were taken of her. I have to prove those pictures were a frame-up, Peaches. I also have to find a couple of the people who were in on it, or who saw it done. Now, I know that your records show you took those backgrounds to a vacant lot, Peaches. But I also know that no one could take pictures of that nature in full view without getting into trouble with the police.
So?
Where did you really deliver those backgrounds, Peaches? And to whom?
Mr. Mason,
Yeah?
I want to help you, honest.
Well, then go ahead.
Oh, wait, Tom.
Now, look, I want to help you, but I got my reputation to consider. I get called into deals, you know. Now, what happens to my business if word gets around here that this Peaches guy leaks like a sieve? You see, Mr. Mason, I just can't go around naming names and handing out addresses. You wouldn't expect me to...
On the other hand, Peaches,
I don't see any other hand.
on the other hand, if we were to do it again,
Do what again?
remake those pictures. Not in that vacant lot, but in the building where they were actually taken.
Oh,
A detective, Paul Drake here, could have learned the address of that building.
and that's all you want me to do?
That's all. Except transport the flats. I don't think you'll have to do anything else. Because I'm pretty sure that once we start a remake of the same kind of picture, somebody's going to turn up who'll be mighty curious. That somebody is all I'll need.
I wouldn't have said a word?
You wouldn't have said a word.
But how do I explain you?
Well, you say that I'm the quickie movie producer. You say I'm cashing in on the publicity of the McKean trial, the scandal. It'll hold water, Peaches. It'll hold water.
Yeah, I guess it will.
Then do we do it?
Yeah, Mr. Mason, I don't see why not. When do you want me to pick up those flats and cameras and the rest of them things?
As fast as possible, Peaches. As fast as possible.
Theatrical backgrounds, cameras, and the rest of the things. What in the world does Perry Mason have in mind? Well, whatever it is, of this we may be sure: the time and the space in which he has to move, in which he must prove himself and Mary McKean innocent, is dwindling, 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 until... But won't you join us on Monday?
When I say Tide is different, I mean it's different from any other washing product you can buy. That includes soap, suds discoveries, everything made for washing clothes. Tide gets clothes cleaner than any of them, because Tide not only leaves clothes free from dirt, it removes dingy soap film as well. Yet with all this remarkable cleaning power, Tide is safe, truly safe for all your washable colors. What's more, Tide takes gay prints and checks and actually brightens those soap-dulled colors. And in hardest water, Tide gets white things whiter than any other washing product known. Now, of course, you want to know about suds. Well, Tide gives oceans of high, billowy suds, even in hardest water. They're different-looking, different-feeling suds. Different suds from different Tide, the only washing product known that gives you all this: the cleanest, brightest, whitest wash you ever hung on the line. Yes, Tide gets clothes cleaner than any soap, but that's not all. Tide also gets clothes cleaner than any other suds, any other kind of washing product known. In short, you can't buy anything that will wash your clothes as clean as Procter & Gamble's Amazing Tide. And I'll tell you why. Tide, with its new miracle suds, not only leaves clothes free from dirt, but removes dingy soap film, too. Yet, with all this amazing cleaning power, Tide is safe. Yes, truly safe for all your washable colors. What's more, Tide actually brightens soap-dulled colors. And just listen to what Tide does for white sheets, pillowcases, and shirts. In hardest water, Tide gets them dazzling white, whiter than any other washing product known. And Tide keeps them white week in, week out, never turns them yellow. Next wash day, why not try Tide? Of all the washing products known, Tide and only Tide gives you all this: the cleanest, brightest, whitest wash you ever hung on the line.
At about 2:15 this afternoon, the heavily ornate carven door of the grand jury room swung open, and a slight, meek-looking man stepped out, removed his eyeglasses, polished them, and then, as if noticing her for the first time, walked over to a lovely, sad-faced young woman who rose from her chair, saying,
Oh, Mr. Jackson, I didn't think you were ever going to come out of that grand jury room.
Well, it's been less than an hour, Mrs. McKean, and you might as well sit down again.
Why? Oh, there's been no...
Decision? Not yet. The grand jury just retired to vote on your indictment.
Oh. There's not much doubt in your mind, is there, Mr. Jackson?
As to your being indicted, I'm afraid not.
Funny, isn't it?
What, Mrs. McKean?
Oh, a person's mind, the human mind.
Oh.
You can tell me the same thing over and over as Mr. Mason told me over and over. If you're arrested, you'll be indicted for kidnapping your child. If you're arrested, you'll be indicted. And I heard what he said, Mr. Jackson. I believed him. And yet, somehow I couldn't realize what he meant. It's like we all know we're going to die. And yet none of us can conceive it's happening to... What happened?
In the grand jury room?
Yes.
Mrs. Wren testified, and Sergeant Barker and B.H. Murtaugh.
Of course.
They introduced a copy of the court order awarding the custody of David Jr. to Mrs. Wren. It appears Mr. Murtaugh has had himself appointed special prosecutor in your case.
Oh? That's bad, isn't it?
If I have to conduct your defense...
Now, Mr. Jackson, don't you worry.
But I do. It's my nature, I guess. I'm not a trial lawyer. My function's to prepare cases, not try them. Mr. Mason's the trial lawyer. But you'll have to put up with me until Mr. Mason feels the time has come to appear. Now, I think I'd better get back in. I want to be on hand when the grand jury does render a decision. Now, if you are indicted...
When?
Well, then when you are indicted, I shall request that the date of the trial be postponed.
I see.
Now, you won't mind waiting here alone?
Alone?
Oh, you mean the guard. I'm sorry about that guard, Mrs. McKean, but they refused to parole you into my custody. You'll have to go back to your cell as soon as the grand jury hands down its ruling.
That's all right, Mr. Jackson. You don't write the laws.
And too bad that I don't, too. There are a few I could improve on.
I'm sure.
Well, then you'll excuse me?
Of course. Clumsy.
Oh, excuse me, Mrs. Wren.
Oh. Well, Mary,
Hello, Liz.
quite interesting grand jury proceedings. And very careless of the police leaving you in this anteroom unattended.
I'd hardly say I was unattended.
Oh, there's a guard outside the door. Well, I'm glad there's some justice left in the world.
If there's any justice left,
I hope they won't shilly-shally around too much. I do want to stay and hear their decision, but I shan't stay if they take too long. I have to take my precious nephew for an airing. I do think a child should have his afternoon airing, even in weather like this. As David Jr.'s mother, I hope you approve.
You're very sure of yourself, aren't you, Liz?
And why not? I don't wish to seem unkind, Mary, but one may as well be practical. You and Mr. Mason managed to get away with a great, great deal. But as Mother used to say, this time you've bitten off more than you can chew. I imagine it will choke you. And I'll be there to watch. Did you hear me, Mary? Did you hear me?
I'm not deaf.
Then you know
What you are, yes.
I mean...
That you hate me? Hate me as you hated my husband, your brother? Oh, yes. And as I know you must hate my baby, too.
Well,
we're alone, except for the guard at the door, and he can't hear you. You're free to tell the truth. For once, you can stop being a hypocrite. You hated your brother from the time he was born, and later in life, you hated everything that belonged to him, me, his wife, and now his baby.
I never said I hated my nephew.
You never said. You never said. The only reason you fought so hard for that child, the only reason you framed me and took him away from me, is so you could control his money.
Well,
This. Maybe you'll be able to carry it off. Maybe in spite of everything Mr. Mason can do, you'll be able to send me to prison for 10 years. Maybe you'll be able to keep my boy away from me forever.
I'll make him hate you. I'll teach
Perhaps
him.
you will.
I'll make him loathe the sound of your name. The sound of your name and the sound of his father's name.
I think you're mad.
I'll make him cringe and beg me to change his name from David McKean, Jr. to anything else.
I know you're mad.
That's what's in store for your child, Mary McKean.
You must be mad.
Aren't you worried? Aren't you afraid? Aren't you bothered about what I'm going to do to your child? Aren't you going to beg me?
I would if I thought it would do any good, but I know it won't. And so instead, I'm going to say what I've started to say. I wouldn't change places with you for anything in this world.
Well...
And you know why? Because you're being eaten up, Liz. Eaten alive with your own hatred. I don't know why I never saw it before. Perhaps because you kept it too well concealed. They may send me to prison, Liz, but no judge or jury could ever sentence me to the torment you're inflicting on yourself right this moment.
Walter!
Because that's what it is, torment. I can see it in your eyes, in your body. I wonder how you can live with yourself, money or no money, knowing what you are, knowing what you've done.
What I am? I like what I am, and what I've done. And when I'm through, you won't like what you see. Because after you're convicted, after you've gone to prison, I expect to mold my precious nephew as I'd like to see him molded. And your ideas and mine aren't quite the same.
Oh, Mr. Jackson.
Has the verdict been brought in?
I suggest you consult with Mr. Murtaugh, Mrs. Wren.
Thank you. I shall. Goodbye, Mary.
Mr. Jackson,
It's what we expected, Mrs. McKean.
an indictment.
Yes.
But at least we'll have time. You secured enough time. Oh, Mr. Jackson, if you'd heard the plans that woman has for my child, Mr. Mason has to have time to get...
Yes, that's the unfortunate part, Mrs. McKean. Mr. Murtaugh and the district attorney are in a great hurry to get on. They brought a great deal of pressure to bear. The trial date has been set for next Wednesday.
Oh, next Wednesday?
Yes.
But we...
Now, you mustn't be upset. I'll do the very best I can for you, Mrs. McKean, the very best I can.
Don't be upset, says Mr. Jackson. Don't be upset. Well, how would you feel if you were in Mary's shoes? How would you feel if a woman like Liz Wren had control of your child and apparently there was nothing you could do about it? think that over. Right now, it's some hours later.
Are you sure you understood Paul correctly, Baggage?
Absolutely, Chief. He said it wasn't possible to get things ready before Wednesday.
It's not very fast work. What's holding things up?
Well, according to Paul, the trucks and the scenery wouldn't be free until Wednesday, and there's nothing anyone can do about it.
He knows how vital time is. Guess we'd better get back to our hideout. No good in being picked up before we get a chance to put our plan into action.
Well, if you feel that way about it, the traffic light is red.
Yes. Thanks for telling me.
Paper.
Wednesday.
Paper, mister?
Yeah, I guess so. You got a record?
Yeah, sure.
Here you are, then.
Just a second, I gotta find some change.
All right, skip it.
Oh, thanks. Say, don't I know you?
I doubt it, unless you've lived in Arizona.
No, I never been out of New York in my life.
Oh.
I guess you look like somebody else, huh?
I guess. The light's changing.
Yeah, I better get out of the street. It's reading the paper. Paper. Hey, get your paper.
Well, let that be a lesson. Don't attract attention by handing out big tips.
Yeah.
And hand me the paper. Mary's been indicted.
We expected
Oh,
that.
but even so. Oh, this picture of her leaving the court with Jackson. Chief, she looks awful.
Couldn't have been a shock. If I know Jackson, he primed her to expect the worst. Trial date set?
I'll have to look.
Probably at the end of the story.
Wait a minute. It says turn to page 6.
I'll turn to page 6. I hope Jackson got us enough time.
Oh,
Well,
Chief, it says Wednesday.
this Wednesday?
Yes, that's what it says. Wednesday of this week, day after tomorrow. And Murtaugh's been appointed special prosecutor. Chief, they can't do that.
Read it to me.
Despite the pleas of Warren Jackson, who asked for a postponement on grounds of insufficient time to prepare his case, Judge Albert upheld the request of Special Prosecutor Murtaugh that the trial be opened on Wednesday of this week.
So that's the way they're going to play it.
It gives us 2 days. Just 2 days.
Jackson will have to start the case, that's all. Maybe he can get a postponement from the trial judge. Or stall the jury selection.
Do you think so?
Well, I know he'll do his best. Meanwhile, we can't get to work until Wednesday. But when we get started...
Or should you say, if you get started, Mr. Mason. But more of that tomorrow.
Say, haven't you often thought dishwashing could use a miracle? Well, the miracle is here. It's Procter & Gamble's Amazing Tide. Tide washes dishes cleaner than any soap made. Yes, and Tide cuts grease better than any soap made. Seems to make it disappear completely. Yes, ma'am, Tide combines everything you've always wanted in a dishwashing product. More suds, faster suds. Suds that are kind to your hands. Suds that look and feel entirely different. Oh, how much pleasanter and easier dishwashing is with Tide. Because Tide forms no scum in the water, leaves no greasy ring round the pan, no cloudy film on dishes and glasses. They rinse and dry sparkling clear, even without wiping. And say, if you have hard water, Tide is a dream come true. Gives oceans of long-lasting suds, even in hardest water. Try Tide today. There's never been anything like it. No soap, no other suds, no other washing product known will get your clothes as clean as Tide. Yes, Procter & Gamble's Tide is different from any other wash day product you can buy. Because Tide does all your family wash, your company linens as well as your heavy work clothes. And Tide, with its new miracle suds, not only leaves those clothes free from dirt, but removes dingy soap film, too. Yet, just think, with all this amazing cleaning power, Tide is safe, truly safe for all your washable colors. As a matter of fact, Tide actually brightens those soap-dulled colors. As for white sheets and shirts and towels, in hardest water, Tide gets them whiter than any other washing product known. And Tide keeps them white, too, week in, week out. Never turns them yellow. Next wash day, turn out a Tide wash, for only Tide gives you all these wonderful things. The cleanest, brightest, whitest wash you ever hung on the line.
Tomorrow, Mary McKean goes on trial charged with kidnapping her own baby. Now, it's obvious the district attorney and his special prosecutor, B.H. Murtaugh, wish to hurry her case. Perhaps because they fear Perry Mason may somehow appear with a last-minute miracle. But probably because they hope to draw Mason out of hiding. Thus, while the police search diligently for lawyer Mason, Mason himself is working hard to prove Mary McKean victim of a frame-up. For only by furnishing such proof can Perry Mason save his client, his secretary, and himself. Well, this evening, in an intimate dining room in the Pelican Club, we hear...
Oh, Nan, what a long face for such a pretty girl to have. This is a celebration, my dear, not a funeral. From the look on your face, one would think the police were after you instead of Barry Mason, or that you'd just been indicted instead of Mary McKean. What's the matter?
Oh, you always give in to Liz.
To me, my lovely?
Yes, to you. There's a perfectly swell orchestra in the big dining room, but where do we eat? Where you can hardly hear the music.
I don't like horns blaring at me. Spoils my appetite.
You don't like. You don't like.
Ladies, I'm known in here. We'll have our fun later, Anne.
Well.
But right now, here comes the waiter, I
with
believe.
Champagne.
Yes.
Well.
Yes, we'll take the champagne now, if you please, Armand.
I will serve it, sir.
Champagne?
Yes, I think the occasion merits it, Mrs. Wren.
Oh, I go for it all the time. I love champagne. I love to hear the cork pop.
Yes.
You and your chorus girl taste.
Lay off me, Liz. You've been picking at me all evening. Gee, doesn't anything ever satisfy you? Here you've got the world by the tail.
Have I?
Well, Mason's on the run, isn't he? Mary's been indicted.
Yes, my dear sister-in-law's been indicted.
Your champagne, madame.
Thank you.
I'll let you know when I need you, Armand.
Oui, monsieur.
Now, to what shall we drink?
As if you didn't know.
To Mason's quick arrest? Or to Mrs. McKean's quick conviction, huh?
Yes, to my sister-in-law's quick conviction. To a long term in jail for my brother's wife. To getting permanent custody of her child for me.
How can you hate anyone the way you do Angel Face, Liz?
Hate? Mary? Well, hardly. Let's say I'm sorry for that poor, unbalanced...
Oh, Liz, come off it. We know.
Mrs. Wren, Nan, drink up. This is hardly turning into a celebration.
You're right, Mr. Murtaugh. I'll give a toast.
Good.
Confusion to our enemies.
I need some more champagne.
Yes, of course.
Nan.
This is a big night for us, Liz. And maybe it'll get bigger. Liz, when this is all over, you think your previous nephew's bank account could buy me a mink coat, too?
We'll see.
Boy, what one of those new platinum minks could do for me.
Oh, nothing could make you more beautiful, Nan.
Oh, I like this man.
Is there any man you don't like?
I've seen them. Bill Herglass, too, B.H.
Of course.
Oh, I don't think
This is an occasion, Mrs. Wren.
Oh, well. It would be more of an occasion if Perry Mason were arrested.
Well, we can't have everything.
Then nothing could go wrong.
Nothing will, dear lady. Trust me.
I trust you, B.A.
Mr. Murtaugh.
Yes, Mrs. Wren?
What about Doc? We can count on him?
Well, we gave him what he asked.
Yes, but...
A signed settlement made out to his wife, Agnes.
What? You didn't tell me.
I didn't want to undermine your confidence in yourself, my dear.
How much?
A large, large sum of money. More than enough to buy you a platinum mink.
Oh!
Love moves in strange ways, Nan. It's a pity you couldn't have heard Doc talk as I did when I visited him in jail. About how much Aggie loved him. About his little white house and garden.
Oh, for the love of...
Where are you going?
To powder my nose.
Nan rather fancied herself in love with Doc at one time.
Yes, so I gathered. I wonder if you shouldn't have told her the truth.
I did.
As far as you went, you could have mentioned that the settlement was money to pay me for defending his murder charge, and that the reason it's made out to Agnes is so you won't be able to double-cross him.
You're interested in Nan, Mr. Murtaugh.
Yes?
Would you like me to explain in detail to Nan?
Not unless you think it necessary to keep peace in our little family.
I'll keep the peace. Nan knows which side her bread is buttered on. I think I will take another glass of champagne, Mr. Murtaugh.
Yes, of course, of course. Oh, the bottle's empty. I'll have to... here comes Armand.
Have a telephone.
Telephone for you, Mr. Murtaugh.
Just plug it in, Armand. And will you bring us another bottle of champagne?
Just a moment, sir. The phone is ready, sir.
Thank you. Hello, this is Mr. Murtaugh. Oh, Barker. Yeah? Well, that is good news. Keep on it, Barker. Keep on it and keep me informed. Sergeant Barker with news.
About Mason?
We may have a real victory celebration after all, Mrs. Wren.
What did the sergeant have to say?
Mason has been identified by a newsboy. He bought a paper. The boy didn't realize who it was until after Mason had driven away.
Driven?
It doesn't matter. If you know something of police methods, Mrs. Wren, they'll put a net around that locality, block off all the roads, and close the nets until there is no place for Mason to turn, no room for him to get away. Yes, this is good news. Because now it's just a question of time. A very little time. Mrs. Wren, go get Nan. Bring her back to the table. This is good news. The best. And let's all be friends. Let's really celebrate.
Something wrong with your hamburger, Della?
What? Oh, no.
Well, then why don't you eat it?
Afraid I'm going to turn into a hamburger or an egg sandwich.
Well, I'm sorry it can't be steak and champagne at the Pelican Club, Baggage, but after this is all over.
I know, Chief. It's safer to eat in diners, quick lunch stands.
For the past quarter hour, you've been listening to the music of Paul Taubman's trio playing from the Pelican Club. And now we bring you a 5-minute summary of local events. With the trial of Mary McKean accused of kidnapping due to start tomorrow, police have increased their efforts to find the missing conspirators, Perry Mason and Della Street. According to the commissioner, new information has been received by the police department which makes the arrest of this pair a matter of hours. The information is very hush-hush, but it's understood Mason was recognized by a newsboy. When interviewed in his
the one you
home
gave the big tip to.
the commissioner said that a police net has been thrown around one section of this city and that he confidently expected that before too much time had elapsed, Mason and his secretary
I've
would
got
take
to get
their
out of here,
places in
Perry.
jail
I've got to get out of
beside the
here.
defendant, Mary McKean.
All right.
Incidentally, Mrs. Elizabeth
take care of the
Wren,
meals,
Mary
boss.
McKean's sister-in-law, has added a reward of $250 to the $500 already outstanding for information leading to the arrest of...
That wasn't a very bright thing to do, Della, running out.
I felt trapped. Oh, Chief, I feel sick.
Baggage, pull yourself together.
But a dragnet. The report said a newsboy. You gave that boy a big tip.
Della, there may be a dragnet, but it's a loose one. Now, maybe the boy did recognize me, but he didn't say anything to the police for some time afterward, or they wouldn't be broadcasting that information.
Yes, but look.
They want to rattle us, make us act conspicuous. If they get a couple of reports about suspicious acting people, then they will tighten that net. And if we happen to be inside it...
If we happen to be inside it?
Well, I don't know why we should go around borrowing trouble. We have enough of it as it is. Look, Della, we've got a job to do. And we won't get it done any easier by unnecessary worrying about the police. Come on now, get in the car. Act naturally. We're not going to be taken by the police until we've found the evidence we need. And then we're not going to be taken. Then we're going to march into that county building and give ourselves up.
Let's hope you're right, Mr. Mason. Let's hope you're right. We'll learn more about whether you're right or not tomorrow.
Today, there are scores of different washing products to choose from. But, lady, there's only one Tide. So don't confuse Procter & Gamble's Tide with any other product. Tide gets clothes cleaner than any soap, any other suds, any other washing product known. Why, Tide not only leaves clothes free from dirt, but removes dingy soap film, too. Yet, with all this remarkable cleaning power, Tide is safe, truly safe for all your washable colors. What's more, Tide actually brightens soap-dulled colors. And Tide works wonders for white things, too. In hardest water, Tide gets them whiter than any other washing product known. As for suds, why, Tide whips up oceans of them, even in hardest water. High, billowy suds that look and feel different. Remember, it's Tide and only Tide that gives you all this. The cleanest, brightest, whitest wash you ever hung on the line. Tide gets clothes cleaner than any soap, and then some. Tide gets clothes cleaner than any soap, any other suds, any other washing product known. There's just nothing you can buy that will wash your clothes as clean as Procter & Gamble's Tide. Because Tide, with its amazing new suds, not only leaves clothes free from dirt, but also removes dingy soap film. Yet, with all this remarkable cleaning power, Tide is safe, truly safe for all your washable colors. What's more, Tide actually brightens gay checks and prints, all those soap-dulled colors. And when it comes to white pillowcases, shirts, and sheets, in hardest water, Tide gets them whiter than any other washing product known. And say, Tide keeps them white, too, week after week. Never turns them yellow. Of all the washing products you have to choose from, only Tide gives you this amazing combination. The cleanest, brightest, whitest wash you ever hung on the line.
Well, today marks the beginning of the trial of the state versus Mary McKean et al. Last night, Elizabeth Wren, Nan Apthorpe, and lawyer B.H. Murtaugh, who has been appointed special prosecutor, held an elaborate celebration in the best nightclub. Yes, they feel very sure of themselves, very sure things are coming their way, especially after Murtaugh received a phone call saying that Perry Mason had been recognized by a newsboy and that the police had a dragnet out for him. Well, dragnet or no dragnet, Mason must go ahead with his own plans if he's to save his client Mary McKean from prison, if he's to save his own good name and freedom. And so this cold gray morning, as we join Paul Drake, Mason, and Della outside a condemned apartment building on the west side of the city, we hear...
This building, Paul?
Yeah, according to Peaches.
What's wrong, Chief?
It's been condemned. It's boarded up. No one's living in it.
No one was living in it when Doc took those pictures, Perry. Peaches was very definite.
Well, if this is the place, this is the place.
They did all their work in the living room on the ground floor. That one, right in front of you, with the big bay, Peaches drove me out yesterday. Told me everything. I mean, to the scenery layout. But that's as far as Peaches is going to go for us.
Well, that's a break, anyway.
The hospital flats were set against the rear wall of the living room. Caught the light better that way.
We can't put on much of a show with the light we'll get on a day like this, Paul.
Well, we won't depend on the weather, Della.
No?
I made arrangements to run a cable to the next-door apartment building. Peaches says that's how it was done in the first place.
Well, good for you, Paul. That'll cause talk. In the right places, I hope.
Yeah, and it'll give us plenty of light, too. Oh, you want to go into the building now?
Yeah, in a minute.
9:30. Mary goes on trial in half an hour.
Della, let's stick to one thing at a time.
Say, what are you doing at that window, Perry?
I just wanted to see if people might notice what was going on from the street.
And?
Yeah, they can, especially if floodlights are used inside.
We'll use plenty.
The whole neighborhood will think we're nuts.
Fine, since everybody thinks movie people are crazy. Anyway, Della, you're going to be the leading lady in this opus.
Me?
You resemble Mary enough to fool the casual observer. In fact, I'm hoping we'll hand at least one casual observer a good shock.
Well, if...
Now, you've got a young and handsome operative who can do for Jim Randall, Paul?
Yep. Picked him out already.
Good. Hear that, Della? Young and handsome. Aren't you interested?
Well, no harm mixing business with pleasure, I always say.
Oh, now, baggage. Come on, cheer up. Paul, the equipment all lined up?
You bet. We've got enough cameras and sound stuff to make people think we're doing another Gone with the Wind. Of course, I won't guarantee everything will work or that my boys will know how to work it. But they've been briefed on how to put up a convincing bluff.
Well, that'll do.
And you won't need to worry about a man in the bunch, even if there is a $750 reward out for you.
Well, I'm relieved.
Incidentally, what was that stuff on the radio about you two? Police dragnet, arrest expected soon and stuff.
No, just routine.
That newsboy business wasn't routine. I think a newsboy did recognize Perry.
Okay, so he recognized me. But before they can close that dragnet tight enough, we'll get this done.
Well, I hope you're right, Perry. The report was unusually positive. And with Mary's trial getting underway, well, they sure didn't lose any time, did they?
Somebody brought a little pressure to bear.
Murtaugh. Say, how do you like him getting himself appointed special prosecutor?
He's a good lawyer. He is. I just hope that Jackson can stall him long enough for us to dig out this information. Because if that case gets past the jury selection stage, Jackson won't have any more chance than a snowball on a hot stove.
In other words, we'd better get moving.
Yes, indeed. Now, let's go inside the building before the crew arrives, Paul.
Okay with me. You get in through here.
Hey there, you!
What,
Chief, it's a policeman.
Here goes my license.
Your license? Here go our necks. Oh, Chief.
Take it easy now, Della. Don't lose your head and watch what you say.
You going to bluff it out?
I'm certainly going to make a try. What's the trouble, officer?
I want to know what you folks are doing around this condemned building. There have been 2 complaints already.
Oh?
About you acting suspicious.
Well, who made these complaints, officer?
That's neither here nor there.
No, I suppose it's not. Well, as it happens, we're planning to take some movies using this building as a background.
Yeah?
May I introduce Mr. Tyler, our producer? My name is Patterson. I'm the director, and this is our star, Miss Stone.
Glad to meet you.
Here are the permits.
Apparently you weren't on this beat last spring when our company was making a picture.
Wait a minute. Sure, I remember. Are you the same outfit?
Well, we're part of it.
And you're going to make another movie?
No, same one. These are retakes. Certain scenes wouldn't pass the censors.
Oh, I get it. Where's your cameras and stuff?
Well, we're waiting for them now. We hope to get set up this afternoon, start shooting at once.
Don't look like you'll have a very good day.
No, we'll have floodlights, and we'll be inside the building. Weather won't stop us. Maybe you remember the people from our company who were here before.
I can't say I do. I had enough on my hands keeping the street clear. I hope you're not going to have a mob of people peeking through the windows.
Well, you know how it is, officer. People are always interested in the movies.
Well, of course, I'll have to report this.
Tyler, you know something? The officer here might be just the man we're looking for.
Us?
Yes. To play the part of the policeman.
Oh, yeah, sure. The policeman. Say, I bet he could.
Yeah.
Who? Me?
Well, it's only a small part. He comes into the scene at the end, says a few lines, and then we cut.
Oh, I never done any acting.
We don't have to. Just be yourself. I'm a great believer in realism.
I guess I could show some of those hams how a real cop acts.
Well, now you're catching on.
Give the wife and kids a boot to see me on the screen, too.
Well, suppose you talk it over with her and let us know, huh?
I'll do that. Well, I guess I better get back on my beat. Oh, by the way,
Yes?
what's the name of this picture?
We're calling it Framed.
Good title.
Oh, yeah.
Well, see you later, Mr. Patterson.
You bet. Well, for a movie star, you're mighty silent, Della. You never opened your mouth.
I couldn't. My teeth were chattering so.
Well, you weren't the only one, Della. I thought we were dead ducks. Especially when I pulled out our permits. Say, if he'd looked at the papers I held out.
Well, the point is he didn't.
We'll have him in our hair from now on.
Yes, but somehow I think he'll neglect to make any reports of it. If he makes a report, he won't be able to act.
Oh.
Well, Paul, what do you think has happened? Where are Peaches and the backgrounds and the equipment? We're going to put on a show. I'd like to start putting on a show.
Meanwhile, back in the courtroom, Liz Wren and Nan Apthorpe make their way through the crowd.
Gee, Liz, will you look at this courtroom? I knew we should have come earlier. We'll never find seats.
Did Mr. Murtaugh tell you? He's saving us a couple.
Oh, well, then let's get down front. Hey, let us through, will you?
No need to be unpleasant, my lovely. Excuse us, please.
Liz, don't sit down. Let's go over and say hello to Mary. It's only polite.
You know, you're really a dreadful person.
Me?
But if you wish. Be careful what you say. Remember all these people.
Don't worry about me. Well, Mary.
Hello, Nan. And Liz. In for a little Roman holiday?
Mary.
Why, how sweet you are, Liz, now. Now there are people to see and hear you.
You poor thing. But then you have only yourself to blame.
How right you are, Liz. Only myself to blame for taking you into my house. Only myself to blame for not having listened to my husband when he warned me you'd do anything to destroy me. Or perhaps you've forgotten.
No, we haven't forgotten. We haven't forgotten how you kicked us out either.
Nan, don't. Be charitable. Remember the poor woman's unbalanced.
Oh, yeah. I forgot.
You know what I'd do if I were you, Mary?
I couldn't guess.
I'd plead insanity. I think you'd get away with it.
Thank you so much.
Liz wouldn't fight that. She'd be just as satisfied with you in an asylum, just so long as you can't get near her precious nephew.
I won't answer that.
I don't seem to find Mr. Mason in the courtroom. Do you really expect him to come riding up in the nick of time? You're a bit old to believe in fairy tales.
Mr. Mason will be on hand.
I'm sure no one will be happier to see him than I, except possibly the police.
And when he does get here,
yes,
you'll get what you deserve.
Your face is really beautiful, Mary, if not intelligent. Mr. Mason must be amused when he reads the newspapers, wherever he's hiding.
The police say they expect to catch him any minute now. You're Mr. Mason.
If either of you think you can upset me or destroy my faith in Mr. Mason or hurt me anymore, you're wrong, terribly wrong. So you might as well go back to your seats and enjoy the show. That's what you came for, isn't it?
In just 1 minute, the judge is due to enter, and the trial of Mary McKean is slated to begin. And meanwhile, Perry Mason is... Oh, but won't you join us tomorrow?
Say, are you doing dishes the new way with Tide? Tide, you know, is Procter & Gamble's new dishwashing miracle. There's never been anything like it. Why, Tide washes dishes cleaner than any soap made. And Tide cuts grease better than any soap made. seems to make it disappear completely. With Tide, you get no disagreeable scum in the water, no greasy ring round the pan, no cloudy film on dishes and glasses. That's why they rinse and dry sparkling clear, even without wiping. The minute you use Tide, you'll know you found a completely new product. Because Tide makes a different kind of suds, richer, faster suds, suds that are kind to your hands. And lady, in hard water, Tide is a dream come true. Gives oceans of suds even in hardest water. So try Tide in your dishpan today. Honestly, it's so amazing you have to see it to believe it. Yes, Tide gets clothes cleaner than any soap. And if you think that's an amazing promise, just listen to this. Tide gets clothes cleaner than any soap, any other suds, any other washing product known. You see, Procter & Gamble's Tide, with its new miracle suds, not only leaves clothes free from dirt, it removes dingy soap film, too. And lady, Tide does that for all your clothes, your company linens, your pretty prints, yes, and your grimy work shirts and greasy overalls, too. Yet with all this remarkable cleaning power, Tide is safe, truly safe for all your washable colors. What's more, Tide actually brightens soap-dulled colors. And white things? Why, in hardest water, Tide gets sheets and pillowcases absolutely gleaming, whiter than any other washing product known. Tide keeps them white, too, week after week. Tide and only Tide gives you all this, the cleanest, brightest, whitest wash you ever hung on the line.
It's only a moment after the close of yesterday's episode. Inside an empty apartment building on the west side, Perry Mason walks up and down, impatiently waiting the arrival of Peaches, the trucker, with a load of movie scenery and equipment. Impatiently because, well, does Mason know that every passing moment increases the chance of his being recognized and arrested. Impatiently because every tick of the clock increases his chance of failure. We're going to join Perry and Ella and Paul Drake in just a moment. But first, let's join the crowd in Judge Albert Dallow's courtroom and learn what's to happen to Mary McKean, who, with her lawyer, Perry Mason, has been indicted, charged with kidnapping Mary's own child, David Jr.
In the case of the People versus Mary McKean et al., charged with kidnapping. Ready for the prosecution?
Ready, Your Honor.
Ready for the defense?
No, Your Honor, the defense is not ready.
Perhaps you'd better explain, Mr. Jackson.
Yes, sir, yes, gladly. Now, as you know, Your Honor, Mrs. McKean was indicted just 2 days ago. 2 days is not a sufficient time in which to prepare a case.
Did you ask the presiding judge to give you more time?
I did, Your Honor.
Your request was denied?
Yes, sir.
On what ground?
May it please the court, I think I can answer that question.
Yes, Mr. Murtaugh.
I assisted the district attorney's office in presenting the evidence which led to the indictment of Mary McKean et al.
Yes, Mr. Murtaugh.
The fact is, Your Honor, this is a peculiar case. Some months ago, charges were leveled and proved in court against Mrs. McKean. Charges of such nature as to cause the court to remove Mrs. McKean's child from its mother's care, place it in the custody of the next of kin, Mrs. Elizabeth Wren.
We know this, Mr. Murtaugh.
Yes, of course, Your Honor. And now, in the matter of the present kidnapping charge, there would be no prosecution for kidnap if Mrs. McKean were wrongfully convicted by the first court. I say if, Your Honor. Obviously, she was guilty. Because the Mason office has been working in vain to uncover evidence to disprove those charges. Now, sir, we felt, and the presiding judge felt, that since Mr. Mason has had weeks and weeks in which to prepare, no hardship could be done by waiting just...
I understand the point, Mr. Murtaugh.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes, sir.
Would you like to answer?
Yes, sir, if I may speak frankly.
Please do.
Well, then, it is quite true that Mr. Mason has been working in Mrs. McKean's behalf. In fact, it was through this work that he was able to assist the Homicide Bureau in capturing that notorious murderer, Doc Keegan.
Wait a minute, wait. In the first place, Keegan hasn't even gone to trial, and in the second, mention of his name in these proceedings is irrelevant and immaterial.
Mr. Murtaugh, no jury has been selected. I'm merely trying to decide whether or not to postpone that selection.
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead, Mr. Jackson.
Yes, thank you. Now, sir, it happens my work for Mr. Mason is more a matter of research than collaboration. Whatever evidence he may have collected, or whatever plans he may have made for the defense of Mrs. McKean are unknown to me. Therefore, in preparing my case, I must start from the beginning, without the benefit of any facts which may have come into his possession before his disappearance.
You mean before he ran out on his client rather than face arrest?
If you please, Mr. Murtaugh.
Your Honor, Perry Mason is just as much on trial as Mary McKean. More so. And I submit that neither he nor anyone connected with his office is entitled to the smallest bit of consideration. Mr. Jackson, for whom I have the utmost respect, has admitted Perry Mason had ample time in which to prove the court proceedings against Mary McKean irregular, if they had been irregular. He, together with his secretary and his client, Mary McKean, have been indicted for kidnapping a child which they could not obtain by legal means, hoping against hope that they could...
Please bear in mind, Mr. Murtaugh, you are speaking of an indictment. There has been no conviction.
Oh, yes, I stand corrected, Your Honor. However, Mr. Mason and his secretary have chosen to disappear. The fact that Mr. Jackson happens to be unprepared is unfortunate, but we feel it has no bearing. If Mr. Mason alone knows the facts, let him come into this court and defend his client as an honorable attorney should do. Meanwhile, if Mr. Jackson wishes to plead his client guilty,
I certainly do not.
Well, the point I'm trying to make is we are not here either to prove or disprove the charges relative to Mrs. McKean's being a fit mother for her own child. That case was settled months ago.
Your Honor, Mr. Murtaugh himself has said that if those charges could be disproven, the case for the prosecution would collapse.
If, Mr. Jackson, if...
He very well knows that it is only by showing the nature of the woman into whose custody a small child was given, the fact that Elizabeth Wren gave that baby into the keeping of a man now in jail awaiting trial for murder...
Mr. Jackson, please. This sounds to me more like a summation at the end of a case than a discussion as to whether or not a trial should be allowed to proceed.
Your Honor, it's all very clear that Mr. Jackson is doing his best to stall.
For what purpose, Mr. Murtaugh?
Why, to give Perry Mason a last chance to get off that tightrope he's walking.
Mr. Mason doesn't need my help, Mr. Murtaugh. He's perfectly capable of taking care of himself.
Then if that is the case, he can come into this court.
Must I remind you again, this trial has not started.
I apologize, but, Your Honor, if Mr. Murtaugh is so certain this woman is guilty, so certain that Perry Mason is walking a tightrope, then why is he afraid to give us a little time? Why is he so afraid of what Mr. Mason might do? And on a tightrope.
He could well use it to hang himself.
That's enough, Mr. Jackson. We will grant a continuance of this trial. Next week, I shall expect you in court and ready to begin, prepared or not.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I hope that's satisfactory to the prosecution, Mr. Murtaugh. Or are you bothered Mr. Mason will come down from his tightrope before next week?
I wish he would. I wish he would.
Very well, then. Court is adjourned.
Turn off the portable, will you, Della?
Yes, sure. Watching out of that window isn't going to bring Peaches any sooner.
No?
Or Paul either. Well, at least you have to hand it to Jackson. He used his head. He got a continuance until next week.
Oh.
So we have that much more time.
It's a fat lot of good it'll do if Peaches doesn't show up with the equipment.
Perry, he said
He
he
said
would.
he'd be here before 11. With the backgrounds, the camera, and the men Paul trained to use them. It's 11:30 now. No trucks, no men,
Maybe he
no...
was delayed at the warehouse. Maybe he had trouble getting that much movie equipment together.
It was all arranged, Della. All Peaches had to do was pick it up. Okay, I'll relax. We'll be walking a tightrope this time.
I know. Chief, have you thought about what may happen if Paul doesn't get back?
What?
Well, he's the one who studied the movie technique.
Well, Paul doesn't get back, I'll take care of it.
You?
It just means a little juggling act on the tightrope. Fond as I am of Paul, he's not the one I want to see. It's Peaches. Peaches and all that scenery and equipment, and those operatives who've been trained to make like a movie company.
Hey.
Who's that?
I don't know.
Hey, Mr. Patterson.
It's the cop on the beat.
Mr. Patterson, she said it was okay.
Patterson, that's what you said your name was, Chief.
Yeah, that's right. Who said it was okay?
The little woman. She thought it was grand, me getting a chance to act the part of a cop in a movie.
Oh, yes, fine. Glad to have you.
Only I still got to call in every hour, so I wonder if you could shoot my scene first, Mr. Hey, what's going on here?
Nothing. Why?
I've been looking through this apartment while we've been talking. There's no scenery, no cameras, no crew.
How right you are, officer.
When I was here on my last round, you said the camera, scenery, and crews would be here any minute.
Well, they'll still be here any minute.
And now, an hour later, here's you two in this vacant apartment and no equipment but a portable radio. Maybe there's something that needs explaining. Maybe I'd better check.
Hey, everybody, where are you?
Ah, who's that?
Peaches?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, where is everybody?
They're here. Our equipment. Look out the window, officer. You'll see all the trucks and the cameras.
Yeah, it is.
Peaches, bring everything into this apartment, huh?
Okay.
I hope you won't hold it against me, Mr. Patterson.
Hold what?
Oh, me talking the way I did.
Oh, no, it's quite all right. Forget it.
And I can still play a part in your movie?
Sure. After we've set up. Why don't you come and ask me after you've made your next round?
So far, so good. The scenery is there, and Mason is raring to go. But as lawyer Murtaugh pointed out, and as Perry Mason so earnestly feels, he's walking a tightrope, ready to fall or get pushed off at any minute. But will that happen? Well, join us tomorrow, won't you?
Today, there are more washing products on the market than ever before. So remember this. Tide is different from all the others. Yes, Procter & Gamble's amazing Tide gets clothes cleaner than any soap, any other suds, any other washing product known. Because Tide not only leaves clothes free from dirt, it also removes dingy soap film. Yet, with all this unusual cleaning power, Tide is safe, truly safe, for all your washable colors. What's more, Tide actually brightens soap-dulled colors. And in hardest water, Tide gets linens and shirts whiter than any other washing product known. And Tide turns out oceans of suds, even in hardest water. They're different-looking, different-feeling suds. And that's only natural, because Tide itself is different. Tide is the only washing product known that gives you this amazing combination. The cleanest, brightest, whitest wash you ever hung on the line. You know, when that little song says Tide gets clothes cleaner than any soap, that's only part of the story. Because no soap, what's more, no other suds, no other washing product known will get your clothes as clean as Tide. Yes, Procter & Gamble's Tide gives you a cleaner wash. Because Tide, with its new miracle suds, not only leaves clothes free from dirt, it removes dingy soap film, too. Yet, with all this amazing cleaning power, Tide is safe, truly safe for all your washable colors. In fact, Tide actually brightens wash, prints, and pastels, all your soap-dulled colors. And white things? Well, in hardest water, Tide gets them whiter than any other washing product known. Something else, Tide keeps them white, week in, week out. Never turns them yellow. You'd better try Tide, because no other wash day product known, only Tide, will give you all this. The cleanest, brightest, whitest wash you ever hung on the line.
It's some hours after the close of yesterday's episode as we re-enter that first-floor apartment on the west side. And what a change. Now it's the scene of bustling activity. Pressed against the big bay windows, a curious crowd watches as a group of Paul Drake's operatives, under the direction of Drake and his employer, Perry Mason, transform one side of the ugly room into a sparkling white private hospital ward. The crowd swells as technicians switch on bright movie floodlights, as cameramen swing their large motor-mounted cameras back and forth as though checking camera angles. I'm sure the crowd interest and curiosity would be even greater if it knew that each technician was in reality a private detective, and that each, by order of Perry Mason, was far busier watching the crowd than with the work at hand. Well, now, as Paul Drake steps up to Perry Mason, he says,
Harry.
Yeah.
We've been all set for more than an hour.
I know.
Think we ought to get started?
The crowd outside starting to get restless?
Been restless for over half an hour.
Give it a little more time, then. Let's shake it up. Let it change. Then maybe, just maybe, we'll get someone up close to a window who's really interested in what's going on.
Okay.
Have the third camera trained on the crowd?
That's what you ordered. We've been taking pictures for the last 10 minutes.
Fine. No reflections. The light's okay.
Don't worry. Your movie, the people looking in those windows will be perfect. The man on that camera is a real cameraman.
Good for you, Paul.
Harry.
Yeah.
It's almost 4:30.
Well?
We've been getting ready for almost 5 hours.
It means 5 hours for news of what's going on to spread through the neighborhood.
Well, but don't you think we ought to do something?
Why?
Well, that cop.
Harrigan?
Yes, this will make the 6th time he's made his round.
Yeah, which means that the next round he'll be off duty and you'll have him in your hair from then on. Why don't you roll a special scene with him in it and let him go home and brag to his wife?
Because I don't want him to go home.
What?
Harrigan is a little movie-struck, Paul, but that doesn't make him a dope.
Yeah, I know,
As long as we've got him here, with his tongue hanging out at the thought of being a movie actor, we don't have to worry. But the minute he gets home, he starts being a cop again. First thing you know, he'll hear a broadcast offering a reward for me or see my picture in a paper. Then I'll be sunk before I get anyplace. No. I want to keep Harrigan right here with stars in his eyes.
But the point I'm making is, if he comes back for the 5th time in 5 hours and finds us just, well, where we were when he found us, he'd start asking questions. Maybe he'll get a little peeved.
Yeah. And if he is peeved, Well, maybe you're right, Paul. We'll get a couple of shots in before and after he gets here. Then we can tell him to hang around for some retakes.
Yeah, that's a much better idea.
And besides, it'll give us something to do. Why, who's that?
Where?
Just coming into the... Oh,
Pretty good match, isn't he, Perry?
Excellent.
but who is it?
One of my men. Looks a lot like the murdered Jim Randall, doesn't he, Della? Just as you look a lot like Mary.
Makes chills go up and down my spine.
I hope when you two get together, we'll send a couple of chills up and down somebody else's spine. Okay, Paul, go tell your men we'll roll the first scene in a couple of minutes. Stills, too. That'll be Della and your man over near the hospital bed.
Okay. Come on over to the set, Della.
In just a minute, Paul. I want to ask a question first.
Right, Anne.
And the question?
You have a very dumb secretary, Perry Mason.
Well, I ought to be the one to say that.
No, I'm ashamed.
You serious?
I am.
But why?
Because, Chief, well, for the first time since we've been working together, I really don't know what you're doing. Now, don't laugh at me. I guess I've been so worried about Mary and David Jr., and things have been happening so fast.
I guess so. And as for being done, if you'd sat down and thought for a minute, you'd have it all figured out. It's really very simple. You see, Della, all we need is one good witness.
Yes?
One positive piece of evidence that Liz Wren and Doc framed Mary here in this apartment.
Yes, I know.
Now, unless I miss my guess, we're going to uncover that witness.
By just going through the same routine all over again?
Well, Della, you got a shock when you saw that man come in, the man who looks like the dead Jim Randall. It showed on your face.
I certainly did.
All right, can you imagine how a person who helped frame Mary will react when they see you, who look enough like Mary to be her twin, and a man who looks just like the murdered Jim Randall posing? It'll show on his face. He won't be able to guard against that shock.
But you can't watch every face in a crowd like the one that's outside.
No, don't have to.
But what? I don't
We've got
understand.
a camera working on that crowd now, taking each and every person who comes anywhere near the window.
Oh,
We'll be able to examine those faces at our leisure.
leisure.
Well, anyway, tonight or tomorrow.
Oh, Perry, that's wonderful.
Now, look, never mind the applesauce.
I really
At
do
any
think-
rate, not now. Paul's waving to get started, so let's get started. Now, give him a shock, Della. And, to mix metaphors up a little bit, let's hope we catch our fish at our first cast.
You know I'm all for that one.
You ready, Miss Stone?
Oh, yes, sir.
All right, then. Places, everybody. And quiet, please. Check for light. Check for sound. All set? Roll 'em.
And thus, while the lights flare and while dummy cameras record the action taking place on the hospital set, a third camera, not a dummy, faithfully records the faces and reactions of those watching Perry Mason's mock play. Meanwhile, in the office of Sid Samarino's Roomba Palace, we hear...
Yeah?
It's that mouthpiece again, Sid.
Huh?
Murtaugh.
Oh. Okay, put 'em on.
Getting kind of chummy with mouthpieces, ain't you, Sid?
Never mind about that. He's an important guy. Put 'em on.
Okay, Sid. Only I thought in this business...
Sid? Yeah? Yeah? What's on your mind, Mr. Murtaugh?
I just thought I'd call you up, past the time of day.
Yeah?
I've been a long time since we've talked, Sid.
I don't have much to do with lawyers, Mr. Murtaugh.
Yeah, I know.
With, lawyers or law. I got enough to do looking after my rumba palace.
Yeah, I guess that's right. Sid,
Yeah?
I may want you to do me a favor. As you know, Mary McKean goes on trial very soon.
Uh-huh.
I hope Mason will be arrested and go on trial at the same time. But if that happens, I may have to put Doc Keegan on the witness stand.
Ah.
Of course, Of course, we made a deal with Doc to be a good boy. But in case he takes it into his head to kick over the traces,
Yeah?
I'll want you to give Mrs. Wren an alibi.
Me?
Yeah, Sid. Sid, you met my client?
Once. She came to my joint to ask me to put her in touch with Doc. Look, Mr. Murtaugh.
I know you don't like to get into this sort of thing, Sid, and I hesitate to ask you. Wouldn't, except I want this airtight. But, Sid, I'll have to insist that you do as I ask.
Insist?
Mm-hmm. I know who meets in that little back room of yours, Sid.
Oh.
I know what's planned back there and how much jewelry was lifted in the last robbery. Of course, I know you don't like to get mixed up in things. I know you didn't have the slightest idea what they were planning, but Sid, the police might not believe you.
When do you want me at your office, Mr. Murtaugh?
Oh, there isn't any hurry, Sid. Sometime next week, or perhaps the next. No hurry at all. And, Sid.
Yeah?
I may never call you into the courtroom.
I hope you won't.
Oh, you have my word it won't happen unless it's absolutely necessary, but you know me, I like to be forehanded.
Yeah, I know you.
Then you'll come down for a little rehearsal?
I'll be down next week.
Fine. Bye, Sid.
Bye. So that shyster's gonna drag me in. Protect Mrs. Wren. Well, if he thinks I'm gonna let him kick everything I've built apart, he's got another think... Rehearsal, huh? Maybe I start looking out for Sid.
Yeah? What is it, Sid?
Nora come in yet?
Nora? I don't know.
Well, look and see. If she's here, send her in. And if she's not, see that she comes to the office before she does anything else. Get me?
Sure, I get you.
Plot and counterplot. Perry Mason desperately trying to learn the truth about Elizabeth Wren. Lawyer B.H. Murtaugh just as desperately doing his best to make sure that by no possible means shall Mason ever learn that truth. And the trial of Mary McKean begins in earnest very soon.
You know, there's something new and different about dishwashing these days, and that something is Tide, Procter & Gamble's new dishwashing wonder. Tide washes dishes cleaner than any soap made. You see, Tide gives an amazing new kind of suds. More suds, faster suds. Suds that are kind to your hands. And Tide cuts grease better than any soap. Seems to make it disappear completely. No scum in the water, no greasy ring round the pan, no cloudy film. Dishes and glasses rinse and dry sparkling clear, whether you wipe them or just let them drain dry. Why, your whole dishwashing job is so much easier, quicker, and pleasanter with Tide. And remember this, Tide works all these miracles even in hardest water. No matter what soaps you've been using in your dishpan up to now, Procter & Gamble promises you've never used anything like amazing new Tide. Try Tide today. Tide gets clothes cleaner than any soap. Why, that's actually an understatement. Because Procter & Gamble's Tide gets clothes cleaner than any soap, any other suds, any other washing product known. And I mean your whole family wash. Sheets, shirts, work clothes, everything. Tide, with its wonderful new suds, not only leaves your clothes free from dirt, but removes dingy soap film, too. Yet, with all this amazing cleaning power, Tide is safe, truly safe for all your washable colors. What's more, Tide actually brightens soap-dull colors, really perks up your gay prints and checks. Your husband's white shirts get an amazing lift, too, because in hardest water, Tide gets white things whiter than any other washing product known. And Tide keeps them white week after week, never turns them yellow. No, ma'am, wash day products aren't all the same. Tide and only Tide gives you all this, the cleanest, brightest, whitest wash you ever hung on the line.
Yes, when fate weaves a pattern, she uses a large loom. And the threads, the characters of the people she uses are as varied and as different as civilization itself. Who, for example, would suspect a connection between Sid Samarino, now impatiently pacing the floor of his office waiting for Nora Tragg to make her appearance? Who would connect this with Mary McKean as she slowly walks the hard floor of her prison cell? Or with Mary's unspoken prayer that her lawyer, Perry Mason, remain free, that he be successful in evading the police, at least until he's found proof of her innocence. Who but fate could connect these two scenes with a third, now being enacted in the old apartment house where Mason appears to be making movies? Right now, as a large crowd presses against the windows to watch, Della Street and a handsome young man, a private detective, are being violently romantic before a hospital background. As we hear.
All right, cut.
All right, cut.
That's all for 10 minutes. Take a break, everybody. Miss Stone, would you come over here?
How was I?
As an actress, you make a fine lawyer's secretary, Della.
Better stop calling her Della, Paul.
Oh, no one can hear us.
I know, but you can never tell when that officer will be back.
Harrigan?
Harrigan.
Harry, you don't
Mr. Patterson.
Well, then, Mr. Patterson.
I'll tell you what I think of Harrigan.
Yeah, what?
He's a good, smart cop. And he'd have seen through us a long time ago if he wasn't movie-struck.
Which makes us lucky.
Very lucky, Miss Stone. And we want to keep him movie-struck, too. Not by any word or action do we want to stir him up. Because if we do, it won't take him a minute to remember who we are and that there are warrants out for us.
In other words, with Officer Harrigan, a real job of acting
But
is...
the best. It's our insurance. Do I make myself clear, Mr. Tyler?
Clear as a bell, Mr. Patterson.
You've been watching that mob outside, Chief. You've been watching them while they've been watching us. Have you seen any reaction that will help Mary?
Well, we'll know after we run off the pictures we've been taking through those windows.
Well, then, Mr. Patterson, do you really think...
Yes, I do. Now, look at it this way. Doc, Keegan, and Liz could not have put on a scene like this without help. Not even with Mary doped. We know they faked the movie company just as we're doing.
Yes, I understand that. I realize these hospital scenes were much too technical to be made with what help they could get in Wallace' home.
Too technical to be made there without arousing interest in the wrong places.
That's right. So they flew Mary to New York and picked up catch-as-catch-can workers who didn't much care how they earned a few extra bucks.
And?
Well, those people read the papers. They know Mary's behind the 8-ball. They know she's in jail on a kidnap charge. All right. Now, suppose one of them takes a look through our window and sees a woman who appears to be Mary, you, in exactly the same scene. Wouldn't your mouth drop open? Wouldn't you get worried and wonder what was up? Especially when all the time you thought you were in the clear? Wouldn't you try to insure yourself against trouble by nosing around, trying to find out what was happening?
Yes, I guess I would. No wonder you're such a good lawyer.
Praise, I guess.
While you two admire each other, I think I'll get set for the next series of pictures.
Okay.
It's a lucky thing you didn't go in for crime.
Oh, why?
Well, because with your particular flair and understanding, you'd have made a mighty dangerous criminal.
What's that about a criminal, Miss Stone?
Officer Harrigan.
Uh-huh.
I was just telling Mr. Patterson here that our police force is our greatest insurance against criminals.
Oh, thanks. Are you ready for me yet, Mr. Patterson?
Why, no, not quite.
Look, this wouldn't be a gag.
A gag? In what way, officer?
The old runaround. You were on the level about asking me to play a part?
Of course, it just hasn't come up yet.
I'd hate to be making a fool of myself in front of my family after bragging I was going to be in pictures. And speaking of pictures, you've got me stumped, Miss Stone. I know your face, know I've seen it, but I can't place the name of any of your pictures.
Well, there've been so many, I guess
You're going to laugh, but I seem to place your picture in a newspaper.
Why?
Well, the officers probably saw your picture when those jewels were stolen.
Oh, yes, that must be it.
Jewels? Oh, now, just between you, me, and the gatepost, ain't most of those jewel robberies for the publicity?
I refuse to commit myself until I speak to my lawyer.
I'd keep your secret. As long as there's no warrant out for you, you don't need to worry about me. Warrant?
Here comes our director, Mr. Tyler.
Oh, yes, Mr. Patterson? Oh, hello, officer.
Hello.
I notice we're just about ready to get underway again. How about putting Officer Harrigan's scene in here? Then he can stand by if we need him for a retake.
Yeah, but, well, all right, if the officer doesn't mind waiting a few minutes.
Me? Say, Mr. Tyler, I don't mind waiting a bit.
Playing with dynamite, aren't they? Trying to keep Officer Harrigan's mind occupied, trying to keep him from connecting their faces with the newspaper photos labeled Wanted for Kidnapping. Meanwhile, in the private office of Sid Samarino's Roomba Palace.
At last. Come in, baby.
Baby, huh?
Oh, it's you.
Why, Sid, I didn't know you cared.
I thought it was Nora. Where's Nora, Joe?
Hasn't showed up yet.
Well, close the door. I get enough of that music. That's better. Why isn't she here? She's usually here before 5.
You, haven't lit a torch for Nora.
Be yourself.
I thought not.
I need that kid. She can do something for me.
Now you sound more like Sid. Hey, why don't you ever break down and give me a box of these cigars?
Buy your own cigars. There's nothing wrong with your graft.
Is it the phone call from Murtaugh?
Oh, Grandma, what a long nose you've got.
Good guy to stay on the right side of, Sid.
Look, dump your ashes in the ashtray, not on the rug.
Best mouthpiece in town. Plenty of friends in the right places.
Uh-huh, high-priced.
Oh, well, if you're worried about money, I might buy a piece
Did I say
of this.
anything about dough? It's just, well, can't afford to get mixed up in things. Start the cops watching the rumba fellas.
And the private room?
Forget that room.
You know, if you'd stay in one place and give me an idea
Forget
of
it.
what this is all about...
Forget it. It's just, you know what a smart mouthpiece can do to any guy in cross-examination. Get up on the witness stand, alibi Liz Wren, and before you know it, Perry Mason is dragged in the rumba palace and everything else. Sure, Murtaugh can object. But when it's been said, it's been said.
Hey, wait a minute. What are we talking about?
The McKean trial. Mary McKean, Mason's client. Murtaugh's trying to put Mason and the McKean dame away.
I know that,
Murtaugh wants me to alibi his client, Liz Wren, if he needs it.
Oh.
What happened to Nora?
Well, I don't get her connection.
I alibi Liz. Nora alibis me. Her old man's a homicide lieutenant. With a homicide lieutenant's daughter backing me up, what I say ought to swing a little weight.
Think you can get away with it?
Me?
Now, don't roll those eyes at me, Papa. I'm not a stage-struck kid.
No. You're nothing but a bum. Oh, that'll be Nora. Yeah? Okay, send her in. On your way, Joe.
What, you mean you want me to beat it?
What do you think?
That's what I think.
Sid, they said you want... Oh,
It's okay, Nora. I'm on my way out.
well, I didn't mean to interrupt.
You heard Joe say he was on his way out. Don't let us keep you, Joe.
I won't. But, watch out for the guy, Nora.
Hmm?
He's in a romantic mood.
Oh,
Go on, get out, bum. Quit tipping my hand.
I know I'm awfully late today, Sid, but
That's all right, baby.
they said...
You know, Joe wasn't kidding
Hmm?
about me being in a romantic mood.
Oh,
If you're afraid, I'll hold your hand.
I'm not afraid.
Swell.
You see, I trust you.
Is that good or bad?
I think it's good. Did you want anything special?
Yeah, I did.
Well?
Look, I've got a lot to say. Why don't we skip out of this joint and have dinner?
Oh, Sid, I'd love to.
But
Well, Mother and Dad are expecting me.
got a telephone at your home, don't you?
Well, yes, but
Go on, Nora. For Sid.
I promised I'd eat home tonight.
Here's my private phone.
Sid, I shouldn't.
I'm even dialing the number for you. This is pretty important to me, Nora.
Well,
I better grab the phone. Somebody will answer in a minute. You're sweet.
Sid. Hello, Bonnie. This is Nora. Well, I'm still downtown, Bonnie. Will you tell Mother I can't get home for dinner? Yes, I have to dine with a producer. Maybe he'll put me on the stage.
I'll put you any place you like.
No, I'm not sure what time I'll be home, but I'll see you later, Bonnie. Goodbye.
All set?
Yes.
So what are we waiting for? Let's get out of this joint.
And then you tell me what you want of me.
Then I'll tell you what I want of you.
What a strange pattern fate weaves. And there's another thread in the pattern calculated to send Mary to prison and her lawyer right along with her.
You know, choosing a wash day product isn't exactly easy. There are many types and many brands. But, lady, there's one, just one, that's truly different. And that's Procter & Gamble's Amazing Tide. No soap, no other suds, no other washing product known will get your clothes as clean as Tide. And I'll tell you why. Tide not only leaves clothes free from dirt, it also removes dingy soap film. Yet with all this cleaning power, Tide is safe, truly safe, for all your washable colors. In fact, Tide actually brightens soap-dulled colors. As for white things, why, in hardest water, Tide gets them whiter than any other washing product known. So try Tide. See how it whips up oceans of suds, even in hardest water. See how different those Tide suds look and feel. And see all this on your wash line. The cleanest, brightest, whitest wash you ever hung on the line. And I'll go that little song one better, Because Tide not only gets clothes cleaner than any soap, but cleaner than any other suds, cleaner than any other washing product known. Yes, Procter & Gamble's amazing Tide will give you a cleaner wash than you get with any other washing product known. That's because Tide, with its wonderful new suds, not only leaves clothes free from dirt, but removes dingy soap film, too. Yet, with all this amazing cleaning power, Tide is safe, truly safe for all your washable colors. What's more, Tide brightens your soap-dulled colors, your gay checks and prints. And white things? Why, in hardest water, Tide gets linens and shirts whiter than any other washing product known. And that's not all. Tide keeps them white, week after week, never turns them yellow. So next wash day, start using Tide, the one washing product known that gives you all this. The cleanest, brightest, whitest wash you ever hung on the line.
It's just a little while after the close of yesterday's episode. We're standing on the sidewalk in front of New York's Smart Pelican Club as a long, sleek convertible pulls up to the entrance. You know who that is getting out? That's Nora Tragg, Homicide Lieutenant Tragg's daughter. And she's with Sid Samarino, proprietor of Sid's Roomba Palace. You can just bet we're going to see what that pair's so lovey-dovey about, and in just a minute, too. But first, let's see how Perry Mason and Della are doing. As we join them in the first-floor apartment on the west side, the room is still bright with movie floodlights. Crowds of people still press their faces against the window to watch the spectacle, while in the shadow, resting between takes, sit the fugitive lawyer and his secretary. And now Paul Drake, private detective, comes up, saying,
You know, Perry, I'd almost as soon go to jail as keep on trying to teach that cop to act.
Well, does this mean you don't think much of Officer Harrigan's talents?
If you mean, do I think that cop can act, the answer is a violent no.
Fine. The less there is to work with, then the more there is to do.
Oh, but Perry, well, he's a good cop.
Paul, if he ever takes his mind off being a movie actor and starts to think, we're sunk. To put it quite delicately, he'll march Della and me straight off to the clink.
It isn't funny, Perry. We haven't got a lot of time before Mary's trial resumes.
I know.
And we've just got...
No emotion, Della. Not till you get before the cameras, anyway.
Okay. But when I think of Mary in jail and Liz Wren, oh, the things that happen in this world.
Shouldn't happen to a dog.
You're so right, Paul.
While we're taking this break, Perry, how about my going outside, circulating with the crowd? Never can tell what I might pick up.
All right, you go ahead, Paul, but don't stay long. And don't forget Officer Harrigan.
Oh, as if I could.
Better blow your nose, Della.
I'm all right.
Your eyes are full of tears.
Well, there. Sorry, Chief, but I can't help thinking of Mary in that cell or Liz Wren. She's got the baby again, and she's so sure of herself, and we just haven't gotten anywhere.
You want Officer Harrigan to start wondering what this is all about?
No, I'm all right. Perry, do you really think we'll be able to walk into the court when it reconvenes, prove that Mary was framed, prove that we...
Now, wait a minute. This isn't a real movie. This is life.
I know.
Even after the film that we've been taking through those windows is developed, even if there is someone in the crowd outside who looks shocked,
Yes.
we still have to find him, talk to him, get the truth out of him.
Say, Mr. Patterson.
Yeah?
Perry, I've got a kid I think you should talk to.
What?
A boy. A nice, bright 14-year-old boy. A kid with a little cheap camera. And he wants to know if he can take some pictures, like he did last time. I said I'd ask. Well, Mr. Producer, can he take some pictures like he took last time?
Can he? Get the lead out of your feet, Paul. Show the young artist in, but fast.
Meanwhile, on the small, crowded dance floor of the Pelican Club, we hear...
You dance like an angel, Nora.
That's because of the training I had in your rumba palace.
Yeah?
Yeah. Sid,
Yeah?
you took me out to tell me something.
That's right.
To ask me something.
I did.
Well, don't you think you've kept me in suspense long enough?
No, not near long enough.
Oh.
Besides, maybe I've changed my mind.
Oh, Sid.
And then again, maybe I haven't. Wait till we get to the table after this dance. Then I'll let you in on the secret.
All right. And that's now.
Yep, baby, now. Hey, I just noticed you haven't touched your dinner.
Oh, I guess I'm too thrilled to eat. Imagine having dinner in the famous Pelican Club.
Meaning a cop's daughter like you?
Homicide lieutenants like Dad don't bring their daughters to the Pelican Club.
And you're a famous actress, you'll even have breakfast here. Let me hold your chair.
Thank you.
All set?
Mm-hmm.
Look, baby, I got a question.
Yes?
What happens to the career if you fall in love?
Oh, let's not talk about that, Sid.
You've thought of it?
Yes. But
But what?
the man I love might be married.
You fallen for a married man?
Oh, I didn't say I had. I only meant a girl can't always get married just because she happens to be in love. You finish your steak just because I'm not hungry.
I'm not hungry either. Give me your hand, Nora.
But
Come on. Say, is this what's got you worried? The wedding ring I always wear?
I shouldn't go out with you. You've never talked about them. But I've seen those pictures of your wife and
You
children.
mean the ones on my desk?
Don't laugh. I'm so ashamed.
You don't have to be. My sister's a good-looking woman, isn't she? Cute kids, too. They call me Uncle Sid. One of them's named after me, the baby.
Uncle Sid, your sister. But I thought...
I know, but I want people to think. That's why I keep these pictures on my desk. That's why I wear this ring.
But...
That's right. Take a mouthful. This food's good. Unlike the Rumba Palace.
But you mean you're not married?
Haven't been for years.
Why? I don't
You
see...
eat, I'll talk. Okay?
Okay.
I don't want to hand myself any bouquets, but when a guy is running a joint like the Rumba Palace and he's got 50 pretty girls hanging around, well, he needs a little protection. This ring, that picture, the best protection I could get. But now all of a sudden, I don't guess I want any protection. I keep on eating, baby.
I don't want any more.
Can't let you starve.
I won't.
If you did, I'd...
Yes?
I'm talking like a school kid.
Are you?
Yeah. Well, I feel swell. I like it. I'm 10 years younger. Almost as young as you.
You'll come to the house and meet Dad and Mother, Sid.
Not yet, kid. I can't right now.
But
I will, later. After a little business is settled. Look, you know why I asked you out with me tonight?
Well, you said you'd tell me, but you haven't.
I'm nuts about you.
Oh.
That's nothing to cry about. Like I used to say when I was a kid, put out your hand, close your eyes, and I'll give you something to make you wise.
You're a fool.
Go on, close your eyes and... Not that hand, the left one.
Like this?
Yeah. Now you can look.
Sid, a ring. A diamond ring.
An engagement ring. Would you like to be engaged to me, Nora?
Oh, yes.
I can't kiss you here, but I'll make up for it later. I better take it off, though, before we get back to the Rumba Palace.
Take it off. Why?
Because we can't let the whole world know about us yet. I'm in a little jam. Oh, not much, and I'll get out, but until I do, well, put that ring on a ribbon and wear it around your neck or whatever it is girls do.
What kind of a jam, Sid?
It's nothing.
Can I help?
Nah.
Because you know I'd do anything. Anything in the world for you.
Maybe I'll hold you to that one of these days.
Anytime, Sid. Any place.
I think you mean it.
Do. Oh, I do.
You're okay, Nora. You're the kind of kid I've always wanted to meet. And I'm going to marry you. Loyal, honest, in there, pitching when she's needed. And pretty, too. What more could a guy ask?
Oh, you.
Now, baby, what do you say we go out to the car, huh? There's a couple of things I'd like to whisper.
Obediently, Nora rises, her head in happy, rosy clouds. Behind her, his eyes cold and calculating, marches Sid Samarino, to whom Nora has just become secretly engaged. Sid smiles. So, B.H. Murtaugh may want him on the stand, eh? May want him to give Elizabeth Wren an alibi for the time when Mary McKean was framed. Well, if that time should ever come, Sid will have someone to back up his story now. Sid will have his fiancée, the daughter of Homicide Lieutenant Tragg. And that should put the okay on anything Sid says. Meanwhile, what about that boy Paul Drake has just brought to Perry Mason? Well, won't you join us tomorrow?
Lady, it's nothing short of sensational. I'm talking about Tide, Procter & Gamble's amazing dishwashing wonder. No matter what soaps you may have used up to now, you'll find that Tide washes dishes cleaner than any soap made. You see, Tide makes an amazing new kind of suds. More suds, faster suds. Suds that are kind to your hands. Suds that look and feel entirely different. And Tide cuts grease better than any soap. Makes your whole dishwashing job so much pleasanter and easier. Why, there's no disagreeable scum in the water, no greasy ring round the pan, no cloudy film on dishes and glasses. That's why they rinse and dry sparkling clear, whether you wipe them or not. And listen, lady, Tide works extra miracles in hard water, gives oceans of instant, long-lasting suds even in hardest water. Try Tide in your dishpan today. It's a modern miracle. Tide gets clothes cleaner than any soap. Now, that's a pretty terrific wash day promise. But just listen to this. Procter & Gamble's Tide will not only get your clothes cleaner than any soap, but cleaner than any other suds, any other washing product known. Why, Tide leaves your whole family wash free from dirt, and Tide removes dingy soap film, too. Yet, with all this amazing cleaning power, Tide is safe, truly safe for all your washable colors. In fact, Tide actually brightens soap-dulled colors, really spruces up your gay checks and stripes. And Tide works wonders for white shirts and tablecloths, too. In hardest water, Tide gets them whiter than any other washing product known. What's more, Tide keeps them white week in, week out, never turns them yellow. Next wash day, try Tide. Honestly, no other washing product you can buy will give you all this. The cleanest, brightest, whitest wash you ever hung on the line.
Tell me now, how foolish can a young woman in love get? Well, Nora Tragg, daughter of Homicide Lieutenant Tragg, has accepted Sid Samarino's engagement ring, agreed to keep the engagement a secret, and at this very moment, her head filled with rosy dreams, she's riding with him back to the Roomba Palace. Meanwhile, what's been happening to Perry and Della? Now, you'll remember when we left them yesterday, Paul Drake was going out to bring in a young boy who wants to take some pictures like he did last time. Last time, of course, refers to the time when Mary McKean was framed by Liz Wren and Doc Keegan under a situation which Perry Mason is now seeking to duplicate. So now as Paul leaves, Della turns hopefully to Perry and says,
Oh, Chief.
Don't get your hopes too high, Della.
But if he took snapshots, he'd have pictures of Mary and Jim Randall, of Doc Keegan posing them. He might even have one of Liz Wren on the set. That would prove that she was part of this whole conspiracy. Oh, Perry, if he has that sort of snapshot, why, he's the witness we've been looking for. You can knock Liz Wren's case higher than a kite.
Wait, Della, wait. Now, wait. Hold on to yourself.
But, Chief...
Let's celebrate after the game is over.
In other words, don't count your chickens before they're hatched. I'm not, but
And remember, Paul said he was a sharp boy. Kids are quite often quicker at spotting a phony than grown-ups. Now, we are going to have to do some acting.
Trying to make me nervous, mister?
No. Just careful. Oh, this must be our boy coming here. Nice looking.
Shall I give him a nice big smile?
Why not? You're the
This
movie
way,
star.
Maxwell. Mr. Patterson is waiting for the cameras to be loaded so he can give you a few minutes.
Oh, gee, thanks. I do appreciate... Oh, how do you do, Mr. Patterson?
How do you do?
This is Maxwell Cook, Mr. Patterson.
Oh, hello. You, interested in the movie business, Maxwell?
Oh, gee, am I?
Why don't you bring Maxwell a chair, Mr. Tyler?
Oh, wait, don't trouble. I'll get one for myself. Of course, I haven't got enough money for a movie camera yet, but I've done a pretty good job with this little old box camera. Won some blue ribbons.
Well, good for you.
Hey, you're not the director who was here last time.
No, he's busy somewhere else. I'm handling these retakes.
I didn't think you were. You're nicer than him. Well, he chased me off the set.
Oh, well, these temperamental directors.
So I didn't tell him about the pictures I took. I knew he'd be mad. You won't tell him, will you?
No, not a word.
Aren't you going to introduce me, Mr. Patterson?
Well, yes, of course. Maxwell, this is our star, Miss Stone.
Hello, Maxwell.
Oh, I remember you all right. Only Gee, you look better than you did last spring.
Oh?
Were you really sick then, or was it acting?
I was sick.
Oh, it's swell of you both to talk to me. I had never talked to a real movie director and a star before. I don't suppose you could give me your autographs.
Why, of course we will. Never can tell. One of these days we may be asking for yours.
Yeah.
I might even be able to give you a few pointers. That is, if I could see some of your pictures.
Oh, gee. Would you?
Glad to. We're not ready to go on shooting, are we, Mr. Tyler?
Not for a while, Mr. Patterson.
Oh, boy, and I've got some of my best prints right here in my pocket.
I want to see two.
What'd you say, ma'am?
That I want to see two.
Oh, well, here they are. This one here is my dog.
Oh?
I won $5 from the Evening Record for it.
Oh, now, that's very nice.
Thanks. And this picture here is of the Statue of Liberty. I got it on a ferry boat.
Uh-huh.
And this one I took in Central Park. Oh, baby. I develop my own pictures, too. But I have to use my friend's enlarger. You see, I'm saving up for my own.
Is this all?
Well, it's all I have with me.
Oh.
Why?
Oh, I just thought perhaps you'd have one of me.
Oh. Well, I guess I have at home.
You guess?
Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure. Gee, I hardly ever throw a picture away unless it doesn't come out. And the ones I took here came out because the lighting was so clear and, they were clear. But the composition wasn't so good. That's what Homer says. You see, Homer's my friend. He's the one who has the enlarger.
I'd like to see those pictures, Maxwell.
Well, I guess I could run home and get them. Only it's pretty late, and Mom would probably make me stay because it's supper time.
Well, then perhaps you could do it later. Suppose you tell me what was in them, then that'll give me an idea.
Well, don't you know what was in them?
Well, the subject matter, of course, yes. I wouldn't know how you composed it, though.
Oh, sure. Am I ever dumb? Say, is that a real policeman rehearsing or an actor?
Oh, that's a real policeman.
I thought so. Hey, that's Harrigan. How come Harrigan?
Well, we have a bit.
Oh, there wasn't a policeman in the scenes they took the last time.
No, naturally. We've made some changes in the plot. That's the reason for all these retakes.
Oh, I see. Anyway, I guess I do. You're going to take the same kind of pictures of Miss Stone?
Oh, yes.
Well, I hope the ones you get this time will be better. Composition.
Oh.
And the leading man. Kind of a snaky-looking guy.
Uh-huh.
I like Roy Rogers much better. I guess I shouldn't have said that.
Oh, no, it's all right, Maxwell. Doesn't matter. Matter of fact, I like Roy Rogers myself.
Mr. Patterson. Have you been a director a long time?
Yes, quite some time. Why?
Oh, that's what I thought.
Oh, why?
Oh, because I know your face so well. I guess I must have seen it in a movie magazine.
Yes, could be. Now, what were you going to ask me about the last time they shot this sequence? Well, you were about to say something about the pictures, maybe the pictures you took.
Oh. Well, I always did wonder.
Yeah?
When they brought the girl in the last time? You, Miss Stone. Well, they had to carry her. They put her right down on the hospital bed. At first I thought she was really sick. She looked sick. Oh, you must have been an awful good actress, Miss Stone.
Thanks.
Even all the time, that man, the leading man, well, he was holding her in her arms and everything. Well, she looked to me like she was out cold.
Yeah?
Then all of a sudden, oh, gee, Miss Stone, I'll never forget how you did it. You began to moan and scream and everything. Boy, it made my blood run cold, even if it was only acting for a movie.
Did it really?
Yeah, and the way the director rushed over with a hypodermic. Boy, it was real as anything. And the way the other lady said, oh, that should hold her. Hey, who was she? I don't see her around.
The other woman?
Yeah.
Middle-aged, dark hair, rather handsome face?
Yeah, that's her.
Liz Rand.
A character actress playing the mother.
Well, the other director says she was supposed to be a nurse.
Oh? Well, there you are, you see. I told you we were making changes.
I guess so. I was watching through the window both times, and you didn't direct it a bit the way the other fella did.
Well, we all have our ideas. I wouldn't be making these retakes, you see, if the first scenes had been satisfactory.
Well, it was more exciting the other way. Oops, I shouldn't have said that, should I?
No, it's all right, Maxwell. And I'm very much pleased with your eye for details.
From taking so many pictures, I guess.
Yes, no doubt.
I study other pictures, too. Especially in the newspapers.
Oh, well, that's good training. Excellent training.
I've seen your picture in a newspaper, too. Why, you're...
Well, Mr. Patterson, they put me through my paces, and they put me through them again. Seems like it ought to be about time to take the scene with the camera, ain't it?
What did Mr. Tyler say?
Well, to ask you.
Oh. Well, we'll be ready in a few minutes, Officer Harrigan.
I wouldn't say a word, but the wife's expecting me to dinner. Not that it'll make too much difference if I'm late this once.
Well, we'll get to you in a few moments.
If you would.
Sure.
But, Mr. Patterson.
Yes.
Officer Harrigan has to be made up.
Oh, yes, that's right. Mr. Tyler.
Yes, Mr. Patterson?
How about having Officer Harrigan here made up?
Right away.
You hear that, Officer Harrigan?
I did, thanks. Well, if it isn't young Max Cook with his mouth open.
Oh, hello, Officer Harrigan.
Close your mouth, Max. And don't be staring at Mr. Patterson like he was a ghost. He's a famous movie director, I know, but...
That's it. He's not.
What?
I just saw his face in the light.
We'll shoot the scene right now, Officer Harrigan, so...
And he's not a director at all.
You'd better go home to dinner.
Yes, Max, do. Before Mr. Patterson...
But I tell you, he isn't Patterson, and he's not a director. I know who he is. I saw his picture in the paper. I just didn't remember it at first. Why, he's a lawyer. He's Perry Mason, the lawyer everybody's looking for. Gee, can't you see it, Officer Harrigan? That's Perry Mason.
And so the one thing Perry Mason feared and hoped would not happen has happened. He's been recognized before he's had a chance to establish his client's and his own innocence. Well, be with us tomorrow, won't you?
When you buy wash day products these days, it's pay your money and take your choice. Yes, there are many, many washing products to choose from. But remember this, Procter & Gamble's Tide is different from all the rest. Tide gets clothes cleaner than any soap, any other suds, any other washing product known. Tide not only leaves clothes free from dirt, it removes dingy soap film, too. Yet, with all this amazing cleaning power, Tide is safe, truly safe for all your washable colors. In fact, Tide actually brightens those soap-dulled colors. And in hardest water, Tide gets white linens and shirts whiter than any other washing product known. And all those Tide suds, you get oceans of them, even in hardest water. They're different looking, different feeling suds. So try Tide, for Tide and only Tide gives you all this. The cleanest, brightest, whitest wash you ever hung on the line. It sounds amazing, but it's true. No soap will get your clothes as clean as Procter & Gamble's Amazing Tide. And that goes for other suds, too. In fact, Tide gets clothes cleaner than any other washing product known. Tide works miracles for all your family wash. Linens, work clothes, everything. Tide, with its sensational new suds, leaves all your clothes free from dirt. And Tide removes dingy soap film, too. Yet, with all this amazing cleaning power, Tide is safe. Truly safe for all your washable colors. In fact, Tide actually brightens those soap-dulled colors. And white things? Well, in hardest water, Tide gets shirts and sheets dazzling white. Whiter than any other washing product known. Tide keeps them white, too, week after week. Never turns them yellow. Yes, of all the wash day products known, only Tide gives you this wonderful combination. The cleanest, brightest, whitest wash you ever hung on the line.
Have all Perry Mason's efforts been for nothing? In attempting to prove that Mary McKean was tricked, that her baby had been wrongfully taken from her, is Mason instead to find himself discredited, disbarred, perhaps even jailed for kidnapping? Right now, it looks very much that way. For as we join them shortly after the close of yesterday's episode, we find Perry and Della in the back seat of a police car, under arrest, headed for the police station. Beside them, Officer Harrigan casts an occasional and unfriendly glance in their direction. Both Mason and Della have been silent, and Della keeps her face turned towards the window to hide the tears of disappointment in her eyes. But now, Mason breaks the silence.
You know, officer, I think I owe you an apology.
Skip it.
Believe me, I wouldn't have taken you in if it hadn't been absolutely necessary.
Look, I'm not sore. You had your laugh on me. Now I get my laugh on you. Turnaround's fair play.
I've been trying to learn how an innocent woman was framed. If you'd recognized me right off, you'd have spoiled my chances. I had to keep you too busy to ask embarrassing questions. I couldn't take that chance.
Sure. Harrigan will make a great movie actor.
Well, we all have our soft spots. All of us like to play actor.
And me bragging to my family how they'd see me on the screen. big joke.
It wasn't a joke to me. It was deadly serious, Harrigan. My client is the victim of the meanest kind of conspiracy.
Tell it to the judge. Guess that'll be a new one for you, won't it, Mr. Mason? Answering the questions instead of asking them.
Oh, I'll still do a little of both.
And it had to be a kid who tipped me off. A kid who recognized you. The newspapers will certainly have themselves a time over that one. Just another dumb cop, Harrigan. Well, I guess I got it coming.
Why do the newspapers have to know anything about it?
Of course, you ain't gonna say a word.
Why should I?
I look you right in the face. I talk to you. And I can't see what's under my own nose. I don't recognize what's been in the police bulletins until a 14-year-old kid says, "That's Perry Mason." Ooh, will the captain chew me over for that?
What, for arresting and bringing in two people for whom the entire police force has been searching?
I should have done it hours ago.
You know, if I were you, I'd be congratulating myself. You stand to collect $750 in reward.
If it's awarded to me.
Well, you deserve full credit for the arrest. Why should they withhold the reward?
What do you got up your sleeve?
Nothing.
And why should you do me favors?
Oh, is there any reason why I shouldn't?
I spoiled your play. I arrested you.
Oh. When somebody takes a shot at you, you don't get sore at the pistol. That's merely the instrument. You go after the person who pulled the trigger.
I don't get it.
You needn't.
You're still going to jail. You ain't got a chance to talk me out of it.
I wasn't trying.
They say you both can be sent up for life.
I know what they say.
Lady, there ain't a bit of use in crying. Sure, it ain't any picnic in jail,
I'm
but
not thinking of myself. It's my cousin. Oh, Chief, we might have been on the verge of finding proof. We might have cracked the case in another minute, another hour.
Now, take it easy, Della. We're not licked.
If we're in jail?
There are others working for us outside.
Oh, but
take the matter we were talking about just before our arrest. It can be worked out by a different party.
Then we have a chance.
if you're talking about the fellas who helped you take those movies or pretended to make movies, some of the boys are with them right now, asking questions. And they better have some good answers ready, too.
They're not guilty of anything, officer.
Harboring a man wanted by the police? That ain't anything?
First, you have to prove they knew I was Perry Mason. If you didn't recognize me, why...
Yeah.
Besides, before this thing gets too far, I expect to show there's no case against any others.
You sound pretty sure of yourself for a guy headed for the clink.
Well, officer, strange as it may sound, I still have faith in the workings of justice. I still believe the truth will out. Sometimes it takes a little time, but eventually the truth will out.
If all you need is time, I'm thinking you'll get plenty of that. All out.
Here, let me help you, Bella.
Oh, Chief.
No. We've been in police stations before, Della.
Not like this.
Up the steps. Up the steps and inside and to the sergeant's desk. Since you two have been in police stations before, I don't guess I have to show you the way.
And as Perry and Della precede Officer Harrigan into the police station, inside a beautiful, ultra-modern penthouse apartment, we hear...
Aha, Mrs. Wren and Nan.
Hello, V.H.
I hope we're not intruding at your dinner hour.
Meaning you don't care, Mrs. Wren? No, matter of fact, I rarely dine before midnight. More chance to work up an appetite by then. Usually, I'm not in at this hour. But it happens I'm expecting a phone call. Won't you ladies sit down?
Oh, no, thanks, V.H. Think I'll just look around. I love this place.
You said you were going to telephone me. I tried to get you over and over.
I've been out. I just came home in order not to miss a call.
Indeed. Possibly a more important crime?
Oh, by no means, Mrs. Wren, by no means. This call is vital to your case.
Mine?
If the gentleman will, and I expect he will, he can provide you with an alibi. Should it become necessary.
An alibi? For what?
For the period during which those compromising photographs were taken of your sister-in-law, Mrs. McKean, and that unfortunate deceased gentleman, Jim Rendell.
But why should I need an alibi? I shan't be on trial.
Mrs. Wren, you came to me because you believe me to be a good lawyer?
Of course.
A good lawyer leaves nothing to chance. Particularly when he expects to deal with a man as clever as Perry Mason. Mason can be very quick at turning the tables and putting the prosecution on the defensive. If,
Look at this, the chromium bar. Hey, and it's got everything in it.
Nan, my dear, you have the instinct of a homing pigeon, as per usual. Would you ladies care for a drink?
I would.
Well, a small one, just to keep out the chill.
Hey, come on over and watch me while I play bartender.
I don't see why you need worry about Mason. He's busy keeping out of the hands of the police.
Mr. Mason has a habit of doing the unexpected. My hope is to anticipate the unexpected.
Here's your drink, Liz.
Oh, thanks.
When Mary McKean's trial is resumed, I expect to rush it to its conclusion with all possible speed.
I hope.
Here's your drink, B.A.
But I'd be most stupid if I ruled out the chance of a surprise move on the part of Mason.
Hey, B.H., here's your drink.
Oh, thank you, man. Oh, my call, no doubt. Put my drink on the bar, Nan. And, ladies, don't wait for me.
As if we would.
Murtaugh speaking. Sergeant Parker. What's up, Sergeant? You don't say. Well, how long ago was this? Well, why didn't you let me know when the call came in? Oh, no matter, no matter. I assume the bail is high? Yes, yes. Thanks. I won't forget you, Barker. Now I will take that drink, Nan.
Here.
I have something to drink, too, as do we all.
Hey, wait till I get a refill.
What's happened?
Perry Mason and Della Street have been arrested.
Hey, that calls for a good stiff drink.
At this very moment, they're being booked.
No.
Cheers.
One moment, Nan. Guess where they were arrested, Mrs. Wren?
How would I know?
In a vacant apartment house on the west side.
What?
It seems they were taking some movies there of a hospital set.
Oh, no.
I think it was a coincidence, Mrs. Wren?
How could they have learned? How could they have found out?
I said Mason was resourceful.
How much do you think?
He has learned? I can't answer. But you see how right I was in arranging an alibi for you.
Yes.
Forewarned is forearmed. And with an alibi, and Doc Keegan whitewashing you.
If we only knew what Mason had learned.
I'll feel my way carefully when I get into the courtroom. Not that I need to. I think I can safely say I prepared for every possible contingency. And we do have Mason and his secretary. No, I don't think they have a chance. Not a single chance. Huh. Shall we drink to that?
I'm on.
Not a single chance, says Mr. Murtaugh. Well, what do you think? Is this ruthless, clever man right? Will Perry Mason, for the first time in his career, go down to defeat? I don't know. Join us tomorrow, won't you?
You know, everybody's talking about Tide, Procter & Gamble's new dishwashing wonder. Women who are using Tide say it's terrific. Say it makes dishwashing so much easier and pleasanter, they'll never go back to old dishwashing methods. And they're so right. For Tide washes dishes cleaner than any soap made. And Tide cuts grease better than any soap made. Seems to make it disappear completely. For Tide gives a completely new kind of suds. More suds, faster suds. Suds that are kind to your hands. What's more, Tide forms no disagreeable scum in the water. Leaves no greasy ring round the pan. No cloudy film on dishes and glasses. That's why they rinse and dry sparkling clear, even without wiping. And what a miracle Tide is in hard water. Gives oceans of instant, long-lasting suds and, well, you just have to see it to believe it. So try Tide in your dishpan today. There's nothing like it. No soap. What's more, no other suds, no other washing product known will get your clothes as clean as Tide. Yes, Procter & Gamble's amazing Tide promises you the cleanest wash that ever came out of your washing machine. That's because Tide, with its new miracle suds, not only leaves clothes free from dirt, it removes dingy soap film, too. And that happens to your whole family wash. Linens, prints, even greasy overalls. Yet with all this cleaning power, Tide is safe, truly safe, for all your washable colors. In fact, Tide actually brightens those soap-dulled colors. And if you're wondering about your white linens and your husband's shirts, well, in hardest water, Tide gets them whiter than any other washing product known. What's more, Tide keeps them white week after week, never turns them yellow. Sure, there are many, many washing products to choose from, But remember, only by choosing Tide will you get all this. The cleanest, brightest, whitest wash you ever hung on the line.
Well, Perry Mason is certainly no stranger to police stations. But at this moment, he finds himself not as a lawyer with a client to defend, but as a man under arrest, about to be booked. As might be expected, the news has brought a crowd of reporters who now surround the lawyer and his secretary. Yes, Della is there too, her face white, but otherwise giving no sign of emotion. Mason himself smiles at the reporters as he says,
Well, you folks didn't lose any time getting over here.
Sergeant Barker didn't lose any time inviting us.
Barker? He didn't make the arrest.
Always like to do the press a favor, Mr. Mason. I tipped them off as soon as the call came in.
Oh.
You folks want some pictures?
Sure. How about a shot of you pulling an ace out of your sleeve, Mason?
It's too early, Jake. Wait till the trial.
Always there with the answer. Now, Barker,
Well, if you boys and girls want the whole story right from the horse's mouth, here's the man to give it to you.
Mr. Mason.
Who's this?
Officer Harrigan, the man who recognized Della and me and brought us in.
Then it wasn't Barker.
I never said I made the arrest, Jake. Go on, Harrigan, tell them about it. Make it snappy. I take over from here, and I want to get these two booked and locked up.
Okay, Sergeant, if you say so. And should I mention the...
The reward? You bet. It's yours.
Well...
If Mason's going to keep his aces in the hole, Harrigan?
Yes?
How about a shot of you putting the handcuffs on Mason in the street?
Jake, of all the ghouls.
I didn't put handcuffs on them.
Look, my paper's a tabloid. We like handcuffs. You're not going to let a couple of steel bracelets come between us, are you, Harrigan?
Go on, Harrigan. You might as well make it good. They've been waiting for a story like this for a long time.
Oh, Counselor, you're killing me.
Get on with it, Harrigan.
Well...
You don't have to bother logging them. Okay, that does it.
Mr. Mason, Della, I wish I could tell you how sorry I am. Thanks, Helen.
Deep thanks. And because you're so nice, here's a special tip for your column.
Hey, wait a minute. I'm in on this, too.
More the merrier. Quote, you may tell your readers we're going into court Monday morning and blow these charges higher than a kite. Unquote.
Honestly, Mr. Mason?
Honestly.
How about telling our readers why you ran out on your client, Mary McKean, as soon as the going got tough?
We didn't do any such thing, and Mary knows it, even if you don't.
Della. Don't let him make you talk out of turn.
Well,
We had things to do, Jake. We figured we could do them better on the outside of those iron bars.
Wait a minute, Mason. If you're trying to say you gave yourself up voluntarily, then the reward...
Voluntarily?
Oh, but we didn't give up, Sergeant Barker. The credit all belongs to Harrigan here. I'd hoped for a little more time, but the officer was too clever for me.
Well, now
However, I'm sure that our efforts will bear fruit. That ace in the hole you were asking about, Jake.
If you and Miss Street will step this way, we'll book you.
Sure.
You boys want pictures of it? You're welcome.
Give Officer Harrigan his handcuffs back, Ella.
Oh, yes. Okay. Here, officer.
Thanks.
Oh, Barker.
Yes?
Before we're booked, may I make a phone call?
What for, Mason? To call your lawyer?
No telephones until we hear from Judge Darlow about the bail.
Okay.
Step over the desk. You stay with me for a moment, Miss Street.
Well,
Split the crowd a little.
Would you look at him?
We'll try to do as much for you as we can, Miss Street.
very nice of you, I'm sure.
There's a phone call from Judge Darlow, Sergeant Barker. Bail set at $100,000. Now you know how much you're worth, Mason.
I have to do a lot of figuring to find people who trust me enough to go my bond.
I'm good for $500, Mr. Mason.
Thank you, Helen. Now all I need is $99,500.
The desk sergeant's ready for you now, Miss Street.
Okay.
I will need a telephone if I'm to raise that kind of bail. Can I speak to you a moment, Helen?
Of course.
Well, now
Beat it, Barker, or I'll skin you alive in my column.
But Miss
Don't
Henderson-
get me sore.
All right. All right, Miss Henderson.
Ah, that petty chiseler. He's a disgrace to the force. What is it, Mr. Mason?
Can you do me a favor?
Hmm?
And keep it under your hat?
I promise.
Then will you phone Paul Drake for me? I'd rather not phone him from here.
The private detective?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, what'll I say?
Tell him what's happened to me. Tell him I don't want to speak to him personally, but to get hold of that boy and his snapshots and to bring him to court Monday morning.
He'll know what you're talking about?
He'll know.
Get hold of the boy and his snapshots and have him in court Monday,
That's it.
Hey, no secrets unless I'm in on them, too.
Chief.
Yes, Della.
They're asking the same bail for me.
Well, that ought to make you feel important, Della.
Oh.
$100,000. Wow. Well, I'll contribute a sawbuck if you'll loan it to me.
Can we get a bond for $200,000, Chief?
Probably, but not tonight.
Then look, if you can raise one tonight, you take it. I don't mind a night in jail. The rest might do me good.
She's quite a gal, isn't she, Jake?
I offered a kick and a sawbuck towards her bond. Hey, Barker,
Yes?
How about paroling Miss Street in my care?
Oh, quit clowning, will you? And look, if you folks have had all the pictures you want, this isn't an open house.
Okay, we go. One question, Mason.
Yeah.
You licked? This is for publication.
Licked? Are you kidding, Jake? With the aces I've got in the hole?
Turn one over.
Oh, no, not now. If you want a peek, meet us in court on Monday. Date?
It's a date, bub. It's a date.
And an hour later, in a downtown bar and grill, we hear...
Sid, over here.
Hello, Mr. Murtaugh. You're ahead of time.
I try always to be ahead of time. Oh, what are you drinking, Sid?
The usual. I'll put your coat on the rack.
Oh, thank you. Waiter.
Yes, sir.
Double scotch and lemonade.
A what?
That's right, lemonade.
Now I heard every...
Sid, took you long enough to get in touch with me.
Had a business engagement.
So your manager told me, with a beautiful girl.
It was business.
How is business?
Couldn't be better. I got the news flash on the radio, Mr. Murtaugh. You must be feeling pretty good.
Huh? Oh, Perry Mason.
What a break for you, huh?
Depends.
On what?
Oh, lots of things. What Mason has up his sleeve. You.
Drinks, gents.
Have the lemonades for the other gentleman.
Thank you.
I'll take the check.
Here you are, sir.
Go on, B.H.
Mason's a clever man. Suppose he let himself be taken.
Why?
Mr. Mason could answer that question. I can't.
And? Okay, I'll start it. You think maybe Mason has something on your client, Elizabeth Wren?
Possibly.
Now, let's not be cagey, B.H. Isn't that where I come in?
It is. You see, there are indications that Mason was on the trail of information connecting Mrs. Wren with those unfortunate pictures that were taken of her sister-in-law, Mason's client.
I thought you said Doc Keegan would give her a bill of health.
Well, I like to have more than one string to my bow. Of course, there are disadvantages to you, Sid. For example, your business keeps you from being the best ace in the hole.
I don't like the idea any more than you do. I get up on the stand, and before Mason gets through with me, he'll make my rum appellers look like an opium den or something.
Yes, I've considered that angle.
On the other hand, if I had somebody to back up my story, somebody Mason couldn't tear down.
Oh.
I'm not saying yet. Well, B.H.?
No one has ever called me ungrateful, Sid.
You'd owe me a lot.
A very great deal. Now, who is he?
She, B.H. She.
Oh, one of your dance hall girls.
But what a dance hall girl. Her name's Tragg. Nora Tragg.
What difference does the name mean?
Homicide Lieutenant Tragg's daughter. Is she good enough?
She'll do as you ask?
Nora'll swear black as white if she thinks it'll keep me out of a jam.
I've heard you're a devil with the ladies.
Well, from the reports I get, you don't do so bad yourself.
It could be.
Now, if I do this...
I'll owe you a lot.
But you won't use us unless you have to.
That's a promise. I'll keep you up my sleeve. My ace in the hole. Lieutenant Tragg's daughter, huh? The daughter of Mason's friend. Sid, that's a very nice ace in the hole. Just about as nice an ace as anyone could ask for.
And so while each side makes ready for the courtroom struggle, which is to begin next week, obviously the odds are all on the side of Liz Wren and her lawyer, B.H. Murtaugh. And yet there's that boy, that Maxwell Cook and his snapshots. Perry Mason intends to use him as a surprise. And speaking of surprises, there'll be surprises and fireworks aplenty next week, so be sure to join us, won't you?
When I say Tide is different, I mean it's different from any other washing product you can buy. That includes soap, suds discoveries, everything made for washing clothes. Tide gets clothes cleaner than any of them. Because Tide not only leaves clothes free from dirt, it removes dingy soap film as well. Yet, with all this remarkable cleaning power, Tide is safe. truly safe for all your washable colors. What's more, Tide takes gay prints and checks and actually brightens those soap-dulled colors. And in hardest water, Tide gets white things whiter than any other washing product known. Now, of course, you want to know about suds. Well, Tide gives oceans of high, billowy suds, even in hardest water. They're different looking, different feeling suds. Different suds from different Tide, the only washing product known that gives you all this. The cleanest, brightest, whitest wash you ever hung on the line. Yes, Tide gets clothes cleaner than any soap, but that's not all. Tide also gets clothes cleaner than any other suds, any other kind of washing product known. In short, you can't buy anything that will wash your clothes as clean as Procter & Gamble's amazing Tide. And I'll tell you why. Tide, with its new miracle suds, not only leaves clothes free from dirt, but removes dingy soap film, too. Yet, with all this amazing cleaning power, Tide is safe. Yes, truly safe for all your washable colors. What's more, Tide actually brightens soap-dulled colors. And just listen to what Tide does for white sheets, pillowcases, and shirts. In hardest water, Tide gets them dazzling white, whiter than any other washing product known. And Tide keeps them white week in, week out, never turns them yellow. Next wash day, why not try Tide? Of all the washing products known, Tide and only Tide gives you all this. The cleanest, brightest, whitest wash you ever hung on the line.
Not too many hours after our last episode, when we heard Perry Mason and Della Street booked on various charges, including that of kidnapping, we join Liz Wren and Nan Apthorpe as they drive toward court with their lawyer, B.H. Murtaugh. At the moment, they're listening to a news broadcast on the car radio.
And that is the international picture up to this moment. And now some local notes.
Liz!
Oh, I'm sick.
But he's going to say something about the trial. I know he's going to say something about the trial.
You'll be in the courtroom yourself in a very few moments, Nan. What difference does it make?
B.H.
Does it make a great deal of difference, Mrs. Wren?
Oh, of course not. No difference at all.
Yeah.
Naturally, anything the beautiful Miss Apthorpe wants, the beautiful Miss Apthorpe should get.
Not everything, Mrs. Wren. But if she wants to listen to a news commentator, I'd say that was an innocent enough pleasure.
Yeah.
And, of course, the most interesting event on the local legal scene will be the combined trial of Mrs. Mary McKean, Mr. Perry Mason, and Miss Della Street.
Good.
The trial begins in Judge Albert Dollow's court at 10 this morning. As you know, all three have been indicted on the unusual charge of kidnapping Mrs. McKean's year-old son. As you also may remember, Perry Mason, prominent lawyer, with his secretary, Miss Della Street, has been a fugitive from the police for several days. The two were arrested only last night. It will be interesting to learn what a man of Perry Mason's prominence will have to say.
You've heard enough, Nan.
I guess I've had to. But I did want to hear what B.H. Murtaugh had to say. You did have something to say, didn't you, B.H.?
Oh, a great deal.
I think you're both perfectly disgusting.
Why? Because we're holding hands in front of you?
No.
After all, you mustn't deny nature, Mrs. Wren.
Me and B.H. have begun a beautiful romance, Liz. Haven't we, B.H.?
Yes, my dear, beautiful.
That's why I got up so early this morning. I want to see B.H. in action.
Well, I hope I won't disappoint you.
I'm sure you won't. I'm expecting you to put on quite a show and to begin right off,
Right
too.
off?
Really, Nan. This is an important trial, not some sort of a performance. And with Perry Mason...
Now, what are you so nervous about, Liz? Gee, I never saw such a woman. First, she's scared because Mason and his secretary get away. Now she's scared because they've been arrested and brought to book. No satisfying her.
And Mrs. Wren is merely wise enough to know Mason is a very clever man. And while we may have him in one sense, he may have us in another.
Something that mind of yours could never comprehend, my lovely.
Well!
However, dear Mrs. Wren, I think I can relieve your mind.
Oh?
About any ace Mason may have up his sleeve. We'll be able to trump it. There's not a chance of his squirming out from under. Not now. So you needn't worry. Either about being dragged into a complete unpleasantness or a horrible thought of having your precious nephew and his trust fund taken away from you.
You're sure?
Mason may have been on the trail of something when he was arrested. But I have good reason to believe he didn't get far enough to do any good.
Can't you be more specific?
You may be called upon to testify, Mrs. Wren, and the less you know, the more convincing you'll be.
Well, you're the lawyer.
Another thing, you know you won't be able to be in the courtroom. As a witness, you mustn't hear the testimony of other witnesses.
If you say so,
Well, I can be in on it from the start, can't I?
Oh, yes, of course, my love.
Although it would almost be worth missing the whole show to be able to get up on the stand and rip Angel Face to pieces.
Now, that's another thing. I ask you both to forget your personal feelings as to Mary McKean.
Oh?
And this applies to you in particular, Mrs. Wren. Your role is that of the devoted aunt who has every sympathy for her unfortunate sister-in-law, but out of love and duty you
I
feel
know how to act. Listen, Liz is the best con woman going.
just the same. Oh, well, I don't believe even as clever a lawyer as Perry Mason can beat what's in store for him. I assure you I'd hate to be in Mason's shoes, especially if his defense lies in an attack on you.
Then my alibi's arranged.
Very much so.
Well, tell us the joke, B.H. Let us laugh, too.
This I think I'll save, my dear, because it is priceless. But I can tell you this. Even if all our witnesses are discredited, which is unlikely after the drilling I've given them, we can still keep you in the clear, which means no matter what happens, you keep your precious nephew and his money.
Well, now it's some moments later, and we're in Judge Dallow's court.
No briefcase this morning,
I'm
Della?
sorry, Chief, but the bail didn't come through until so late.
It
that
doesn't matter, baggage. I won't need a briefcase.
Oh?
All I need is word that Paul Drake is on his way.
Yes?
Our worthy opponent just came in.
Murtaugh.
Mm-hmm.
There's Nan Apthorpe and Liz, right in the row behind him.
So?
Look at him. He fairly oozes confidence.
Well, let's do a little oozing ourselves. We have a few minutes before court begins.
Yes, but
Sit down, Della. And, for heaven's sake, smile.
Shouldn't the matron have brought Mary in by now?
Will you please stop looking around this courtroom and do as I say? Act confident. Smile.
I don't feel confident. Suppose Paul Drake didn't get those...
Supposing. Now. You know you can do better than that. More teeth, Della. More teeth.
You make me sick.
That's my secretary. Now sit down and open the book and start making pothooks.
Chief, if Paul had anything to report, wouldn't we have heard from him by now?
Della, we just came into the courtroom. I haven't been near the office.
Yes, but what if Helen Henderson didn't give him your message?
Baggage. Being arrested has done something to you. Of course she gave him my message. And of course Paul is going to find young Maxwell Cook and bring him and his pictures to this court. And of course I'm going to blow that grin right off of B.H. Murtaugh's face.
I wish I were as sure of it as you are.
Della,
Yes?
you losing confidence in your boss?
Oh, Perry, of course not. But, well, we've been in tight spots before, but never one like this. And you just stand there and grin.
It's a new experience.
Well, we can do without it. Don't you realize your future's at stake? All you've built up? And not only your professional future, not just the fact that you may go to jail, but Mary and that darling baby.
You haven't said a word about yourself.
Well, I don't matter.
Hmm?
Well, yes, I do, too, but not when you compare me with Mary and you.
Here
and
comes
your...
Mary. Now, Della, please, cheer up. If she gets a look at you, she'll be scared to death. Especially if she knows we were arrested, which she doesn't.
I know.
Look at her face.
Mr. Mason, Della.
Hello,
Mary,
Mary.
darling,
Oh,
I'm
my
so
goodness,
glad.
Della, you're here. I knew you'd be here when court began. I only told them what you told me to say, Mr. Mason. They didn't get a thing out of me.
I knew I could depend on you, Mary.
And now you've done it. Now you've done what you set out to do. Now I can have my baby with me for good and all. Now we can send Liz Wren to jail.
Mary.
Oh, you don't know how happy
Mary.
I am.
Darling, Mr. Mason and I were arrested yesterday.
What?
Now, it isn't as bad as it sounds. We were near the end of the trail. Paul Drake can carry on.
Arrested?
Hmm?
Charged along with me for kidnapping David Jr.? But then how can you act as lawyer?
No man can conduct his own defense. And since we're being tried together...
But I'm...
Mary, I'm going to tell you the same thing I just told Della. You smiled when you saw me. You looked confident then. You keep right on smiling and keep on looking confident because we're going to win. That's fine. That's the stuff. You're a much better actress than Della.
Why, I resent that.
Mr. Mason.
I said we were going to win, didn't I?
Yes.
We are. I tell you now, we're onto something that'll send your sister-in-law right where we want her.
To jail?
To jail. Now...
Mr. Mason?
Yes.
A message for you.
Oh? Thank you.
Now, talk.
What is it, Chief?
I'll find out.
Paul Drake?
Mm-hmm.
And?
Mm-hmm. It was written early this morning. Paul received my message from Helen Henderson and is out following my instructions.
Getting hold of Max Cook and a snapshot.
Exactly.
What snapshots, Mr. Mason?
Photographs taken of you, Mary, and Jim Randall.
Oh.
Others, too, we hope.
But I don't understand.
Well, there was a crowd on hand when those pictures were taken. Among them, an enterprising young man who took some snapshots on his own.
Yes?
I'm hoping that in his collection he has one snap showing Elizabeth Wren on that set.
Oh.
Let me find one, just one picture tying Liz Wren into that swindle, and I'll make her sorry she was ever born. As well as put David Jr. back in your arms where he belongs.
Oh, Mr. Mason.
Oh, you've got the kind of smile I want you to have. Oh, just in time, too. Here comes his honor. It appears we're about to begin.
Mason sounds confident, doesn't he? But then he doesn't know what B.H. Murtaugh is planning for him. Yes, there'll be surprises and drama plenty as this courtroom fight unfolds, so join us tomorrow for sure.
Say, haven't you often thought dishwashing could use a miracle? Well, the miracle is here. It's Procter & Gamble's Amazing Tide. Tide washes dishes cleaner than any soap made. Yes, and Tide cuts grease better than any soap made. Seems to make it disappear completely. Yes, ma'am, Tide combines everything you've always wanted in a dishwashing product. More suds, faster suds, suds that are kind to your hands, suds that look and feel entirely different. Oh, how much pleasanter and easier dishwashing is with Tide. Because Tide forms no scum in the water, leaves no greasy ring round the pan, no cloudy film on dishes and glasses. They rinse and dry sparkling clear, even without wiping. And say, if you have hard water, Tide is a dream come true. Gives oceans of long-lasting suds, even in hardest water. Try Tide today. There's never been anything like it.